agenda in front of you. We're going to review the agreements that we came to together the last time about this process, what it is and what it isn't, and how we want to be with each other in this process. We'll take a moment we'll take a chunk of time to actually review what's in this document that you've got, which is essentially at this moment purely a brainstorm. That's all it is. If there are, if we want to move things, if you don't like how I categorize things, I mean, you're the experts. I am external to your process, so I could have put something in the wrong bucket. So let's just check in about that. If there are additions that specifically that weigh into the place where there's a lot of majority thinking already, then that's great, because what we're going to do is focus in on the places where you agree the most. We'll do some small group work from there. I'm gonna have you be in small groups. We're gonna see if you can do some of the heavy lifting around writing some goals for the buckets. And again, that's not getting into the minutia of the when are you going to do it and how are you going to do it and all of those details. We're going to stay out of the details today. That's not what we're here to do today. And then we will I'll take the information that you're creating today and we will tee it up to hopefully finish the process on Monday night when we see each other again. So just as a reminder of the group agreements, those are written on the top of your agenda. These were the ones that those of you who were in attendance at the last session, you created this list. Again, the whole intention of this process is not to talk about all the things that you care about, but to focus in on the areas where you care collectively. In the place where there is kind of the what matters most around common ground issues. So again, it's not the long list, it's the short list. And the expectation, of course, is that you're still working on your individual priorities within your districts and within and what you feel is most important. This is about the collective will, if you will. That we're having respect for one another and the ideas that we bring up. That again, we're focusing on those big ideas or those challenges with a 3-year time horizon. We're not obligating future groups beyond this. This is your plan for your tenure. So it's got that 3-year time horizon. When we get into setting goals, that will be critical to remember. That we are really thinking quite wisely about where we're focusing our time again, which is why I'm going to hone in on the places where you have obvious connectivity already. We have remained, I hope, accessible to the public during this process, and so we will continue to do that. And on Monday, we'll really hone in on what that means, that one piece in particular, in terms of how we want to engage either committees that already exist or commissions that already exist or things of that nature. And one more, and then I'll take a question. And then there was a conversation around kind of finding an agreement with the administration on these common goals, which again we'll come back to on Monday. Ms. Quinn Davidson.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. It's just a small comment, but the 3 years, it's fine to say long term or something, but we're all on different timelines, right? Like many of us are up for election in April. We might be here for 3 more years. We might not be. Some people got elected, Right. So it's sort of all over the place.
It's a little all over the place. And the group, the last time we were all together, you were.
I listened.
Yeah, perfect.
I heard it.
You heard
didn't hear anyone say.
There was, it was when we were on the whiteboard and we were talking, and there was a conversation. I believe Mr. Dyson asked a question about kind of timeline, and we had a conversation about could we just agree that it would be no more than 3 years at this point. So yes, agreed that you may not be here for that whole time, but we're not, big ideas are
long term.
Yeah, it would be nice, and part of that conversation was, there are really big issues to solve, of course, and many of those are listed here on these pieces of paper, and they are not solvable in 3 years. But the question is, what's the bite you want to take out of the bigger ideas? So we can certainly talk about more than, but I think at least trying to get ourselves oriented to not something that you could do tomorrow. We really don't need to write that down, right? You can do it tomorrow, just get it done. Right? We don't need big collective process about that. So I appreciate that piece.
Lori,
Yes.
for me, it was a challenge. I sat down 4 times to write down these goals. Every time I just got more frustrated, a little more red in the face. And then even last night when I saw all these other thoughts and ideas, similarly, same reaction. And so I just couldn't give you a reasonable that I didn't have the time. It's that I couldn't get the words on the page. And that's because in some ways I still feel that this process, while meaningful, is reversed to the nature of the work we're challenged to do, which is in a lot of ways be responsive to our neighborhoods and constituencies. And so I did not send you my list of 10 things that I'm working on. And now there's been 3 more added since then. And so I just have to express that for me, it's really challenging. My only goal in the collective group here is to be as flexible as possible so that we can meet as many of our needs for our constituencies as we can. And we all recognize there are bigger picture challenges. We got the homelessness issue, public safety issues, and all these things. And so for me, I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Okay. And everyone makes a choice, right? And what I'll say about that is, like, this is the place where, again, no one's saying you can't work on your individual stuff. That's not what this is about. And no one's saying you shouldn't be responsive and reflective of your community. No one's saying that, right? This is about trying to uncover and discover where you have common energy. And if it's not there for you, then it's not there for you.
But that's
okay.
That's not even true. That's not even true. There is a common energy in a lot of issues with a lot of these folks. It's around this framing that is a challenge for me. So I wouldn't suggest that I don't have collective effort and want to work with people and we share ideals and visions. And so, like, we're not a nonprofit, we're not a for-profit, we're a government.
You're a government.
And it's weirdly different in its own way. And so it's not that I don't care to work collectively on these issues. I'm here. I mean, I could be at my work, dealing with the projects that I'm not doing because I'm here. I just had to put that out there.
So what I'll say, right, is, so this isn't the way that I would deal with a nonprofit space either. So just to say, like, this process is your process, and we can, when we get into some small groups, like, let's try to work with that. Let's try to take that and work with it. We're all doing our best to try to figure out, like, what the right process is. If this is, and I've been working with your chair, and
it's no challenge to you.
No, this isn't about me personally. This is just about, like, I'm hearing you. I think that we have to solve it together.
Yeah,
and when I say together, I mean all of us together, right? We'll go to Ms. Kennedy and then, go ahead.
And I guess if it's confession time.
That wasn't on the agenda, but that's sure. Let's do that.
But, the point is, I had some frustration with this too, and I don't think it was to the degree that Chris's was, but as I looked over this, I thought, there is a lot of similarity, and I'm definitely a let's not recreate the wheel kind of a person, and so I felt like there was just enough here that I could work with.
Yeah.
And the other part was, though, to a certain extent, what I'm admitting is I was almost afraid to sit down and just start listing things because I thought, oh my gosh, when will it end? Because as a new assembly member, I'm finding that the list gets longer by the hour. And, I feel like right now I'm kind of busy just putting out a few fires rather than getting a real grasp of the big picture. So for me, that was the frustration. But I am more than happy to work through all the things that people have already been listing.
Thank you, Mr. Perez-Rodea, and then Mr. Dyson. Oh, and then with our chair. Do we preempt the chair? Sorry.
No.
Tell me your protocol.
Let's stay in order.
Okay.
I think that there, for me, there's some underlying assumptions going on that I would just like to sort of, in my own mind, share. One, that there's a real benefit in collective work, right? And that collective work beyond a 2 or 3 person, but a truly collective body of work, and that the work will be better. It will be because of that. The second assumption, I think, is that in order to commit to collective work, in some cases you have to give up something. Like, there's not enough time in the day, there's not enough energy to do everything. And so there may be in this effort to say, if you believe that it's worth putting energy towards truly collective work, that may mean giving up some time or some energy or some things that you personally wanted to, or the last assumption that I would throw out is this balance between being responsive and being strategic, right? This idea of, yes, there is in so many issues and so many needs and so many wants from the people that we serve, and to be responsive and to hear all of those things, but at the same time to balance that with long-term, strategic, collective, thoughtful work. And so I think those are some of the underlying assumptions that are built into this. don't know if there's agreement on those or not, but I think at least I wanted to share them.
Thank you. Mr. Dyson.
Yeah, so I tried to kind of precipitate this 2+ years ago, this discussion. And a whole lot of what we do is what I would call operating responsibilities, almost all the consent agenda. And Croft made an effort to get us out of the non-strategic stuff that can eat a lot of time. The argument that some of these things we won't solve, fine. We still got to do what we can. Part of my goal is to answer the question for myself, what do we want our city to be like when I leave? What are they going to write on my tombstone? My wife says, I don't want them to write on my tombstone, she took a clean house. You know, and the long-term goal is to do all I can to preserve civil liberties and civil rights, and for this to be as free a community as we can be for individuals and groups, and to enhance individual responsibility, more participants from the city, and protect very precious things that I think are fundamental, like family. So that's not, it's like a big ship. I hope that I can either help to keep us on course to preserve those constitutional imperatives, or maybe even bump it back, towards that path. Hard to quantify, but I think that's worthwhile to think about that. So.
Thank you.
Done.
Mr. Rivera.
Yeah, Desiree, did you have something?
2 seconds. Pizzas here, gluten-free options are in the little room, so.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you. Should we do you want to take a minute?
Yeah, let me.
No, I mean for food.
Let me speak and then, yeah. So, yeah, I want to thank my colleagues for all of these thoughts. I think we sort of hashed this out a little bit the first time that we met, actually a lot bit, but I understand that a lot of this percolates and we keep thinking about it and we keep thinking, why are we here at this table at this time doing this thing? When I was elected to serve as chair, I think one of the first words that came out of my mouth was collaboration and how we can work together. And I think when I'm done serving as chair, that's probably going to be the last word that you guys hear out of my mouth is collaboration and how we can work effectively together. And that's because we have this ship, the assembly. The administration has their ship, the administration. And I feel that we need to do what we can to guide our ship the best as possible. And the administration has done tremendous efforts to try to guide their ship as best as possible. I talked last time about how the administration did what we are doing when they were first elected in 2015, and they set their priorities, their goals, what they want to achieve in the 3 to 6 year time frame. And I think many of us have experience when we try to come to the administration and work with them on something, and they say, well, that doesn't necessarily fit in our plan that they developed years ago in their 3 to 6 year time frame. So I think what we need to do is build our cohesive plan, sit down with the administration and say, this is our plan, this is your plan, this is where we can work together, and this is maybe where we're not going to work together, and that's okay because separation of powers. But right now, and I don't want to speak too much for the administration, but to them sometimes it feels like we are throwing darts on a dartboard and don't necessarily have that cohesion. So I think we need to come up with this plan. We also need to have the space so that we can work outside of the plan and do the things that we think are important to our constituents, that are important for us personally, because that's why we were elected. Our neighbors thought, hey, these folks have good ideas. They're passionate about X, Y, and Z. I don't want you guys to stop doing X, Y, and Z. But in the end, this comes down to the resources we have and what we can do. And the clerk's office and our assembly council can only do so much. Having a roadmap is going to help tremendously so that we can use our resources the best that we can. And I'm hopeful that we'll also be able to expand our resources so that we can do more. So that's all I want to say before we get some food.
Okay, so I just say, when we come back, this is what we're gonna do, because I wanna watch time here. So we'll just take a quick roll through the lists, and I'll just explain some of the thinking that I used to create them. We'll just we'll sit with them for a minute. And then we're gonna start to work on the ones that got the most, if you will, votes. I say that very liberally and loosely, meaning the ones where there was a majority of you had comments within a certain bucket. Okay? So that's how we're going to roll through the rest of our time together, and I'll explain more when we come back. So just very quickly, grab some pizza. Thank you. Yes,
The group a while back, got pretty far down the road, and then realized there was some really significant different assumptions about a lot of things.
Well, we do innovation, but like you can't do anything. So it's true for a lot of things. It's just true for
Totally opposite subject. I'd love to chat with you sometime about you potentially speaking at the culture shift. So an event we've been doing, we're probably 7 months in, because 7 of the last.
Yeah, I was still a little bit too.
It's a fun thing, but it's a shifting cultural. Around all ideas around culture, around community, around people, things like that.
Yeah, totally. I assume you could change it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. Great. For me, massive fighting sleep. Cool.
Felix,
Yes, sir.
at the end of the day, if we're gonna work on projects, making a difference and stuff, I don't know how we get away from the homeless and crime issue and the treatment for mental health.
Good thing those are the
Yeah.
top
Right now, I can't think of a higher
Good thing those are the
priority.
top priority.
Certainly, that's where our constituents
Huh.
Yeah.
know. By the way, my granddaughter was probably broken or stuff
Everybody has something to say.
which doesn't give me any compassion, but I dealt with her.
I've got
for
it.
free.
Yeah, I mean, I think homelessness is probably was the only one that we all agreed on that we need to work on.
I don't remember whether I wrote it down or not, but I was looking at bigger picture stuff, but,
Yeah.
and I was,
I put them in both.
some of the other, I'm almost wishing
It's
that
less
we could have people who generally ran things in Omaha or Las Vegas or whatever, pay them a field trip. I'll take them out on my boat fishing or whatever.
Yeah, no, that would be fantastic. I know we're going to be doing a work session soon where John and Cameron can tell us sort of their first-hand accounts. But if there's San Francisco, okay, awesome.
I'm sorry?
I toured the whole system in San Francisco, including I got to ride on the number one busiest fire truck in America, dealing with homelessness. So it is a good conversation.
And I think we may have records just push back from like buddies at ACU.
Right.
And that's why I started. Well, to me, the challenge there is to get something. The core of the argument is if we were forced to go somewhere we don't have somewhere to we actually are. And I don't think we can.
That's a practical one.
I don't think we can live out.
But, I mean, you go another step and say you can't force somebody to quit unless there's another way for them to make
Yeah.
it.
But it's not a crime to not have a place.
Are you ready?
No, but it is a crime to be trespassing and you know,
But again,
infringing other people's
if we
rights.
don't have a place for them to go, nowhere is not a place.
And no jobs is not a substitute. I'm not arguing with you.
That's the core position that we're.
Are we ready, everybody? Let's do this.
All right. Yeah, let's keep that conversation going.
You've got food. Okay. Thanks. Really? Of course. One-handed lady's giving me drinks.
And I can hear you, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. That's super nice of you. Thank you.
Everybody shares stuff.
I love that. That feels so
We're
collaborative.
sharing the erosion of our tooth enamel.
I went to the dentist yesterday, so I think I'm all right. All right.
And the depletion.
Technically, Lori, your property taxes are producing that.
Oh, thank you. Well, apparently on Tuesday you elected me to be a volunteer for the city, so maybe it's all coming out in the wash. So I just heard about that like a minute ago. Oh, thank you. I'm excited to serve. My other hat, the census, right? I know someone actually asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said yes.
She said, "Buy a resume."
Yes, someone actually asked me for a resume. It's true. Okay, let's do this. So, to Mr. Constance's point, right? This is kind of a bit. This is a little bit of a beast, right? Like all this feedback, so my effort was to try to create buckets. It is, let me just say right out, not a perfect science, right? So my external vision of what these buckets are and my best use of that, understanding these are very big buckets. So just a couple things to keep in mind, right? Some of you were super concise, and some of you were quite lengthy, and I tried to level that playing field just a touch. So you might find that some of your answers got a touch consolidated, but I did my best to keep the intention right there. If they are not in any particular order, their only color coding is just so you can see kind of how a person kind of showed up kind of all over the place, right? So there was some sense of that, but not in any order, not in any priority, until the priorities came after I did all the sorting. Then the buckets are now sorted, if you will, in priority order based on, if nine of you responded and all 9 of you had something to say about housing and homelessness, right? So it comes at the top. And then, 7 of 9 of you had something to say around economic development. 5 of 9 of you had something to say about quality of life. Not 4 of 9 of you had something to say about public safety and wellness. And that really, in many ways, of course, overlaps with the housing homelessness problem issue. But I tried to separate those as best I could. Again, not a perfect science. 4 of 9 of you had something to say around civic engagement. 3 of 9 around education. 3 of 9 around municipal employees. 3 of 9 around the way your communication, specifically you to constituents and constituents back to you. A bit about financing that was more general around city government, not so, maybe could have been in the economic development category, but seemed different somehow. And then a couple of things that I didn't actually know how to categorize, so they got a bit of a miscellaneous box. But I talked to that person, so I think I'm okay there. We also had right before homelessness, there was just a set of goals that were more about kind of a population-based goals, so less kind of, so if you think about these goals on a matrix or on a grid, right? These goals might come, goals that are numbered might come horizontally across the page. These population goals, or no, so the other way around. The population goals might come horizontally across and impact every one of these ideas, and the numbered goals might come vertically down, right? So, what I would say as we get into the buckets is to really think about the population specifically, and that will come in when we think about the goals and how you word your goals. Maybe you actually want to put some more specific population into your goals to make them more specific about who you're focused on in particular around any particular goal. So that's a little bit about what's in here. There's a lot in here, and in any one of these buckets, the diversity of ideas is quite large. So that's why we're going to do our best to kind of stay out of the weeds, if we can. I will also say that even within these diversity of ideas, there is a lot of overlap and a lot of consistency. And I think to your credit, honestly, because what I see as an outsider looking in and looking at these ideas is, wow, it doesn't feel random. It feels like you've been thinking about these ideas together, and it feels like these are showing up. You're using your own words, but the ideas are pretty consistent. And I think you should feel good about that, in my opinion. So without telling us your goals, because I did my best to try to keep some anonymity here, I would just open the floor just for some reflection. You don't have to read us your goal. You don't have to soapbox about your goals. I just want reflection overall about the buckets. Did we get it? Did I get it right? Not me personally, but kind of, it's not about me, but like, are the buckets right? Would you move around? What does that mean? Because if we do too much moving, we'll change the priority, and I need to know that. Okay. Yes?
Just one comment. Thank you for putting this together. Actually, I think it's really cool that there's so much overlap and common ground. I am curious in terms of public safety and wellness, that only got 4 of 9. And I would have thought that would have been like 11 of 9.
And my reflection about that is that you'll see a lot of overlap of those ideas in the housing homelessness issue. And so maybe by separating it, you'll have to read more closely. I did my best to try to separate those ideas, but maybe for people, I was curious about that too. So thinking about that.
I was just going to comment to that it's interesting because I think we sometimes conflate the public safety and homelessness, right? We're sort of talking about those together a lot. Mm-hmm. So it's just interesting, like maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, but if we're really concerned more about homelessness and then if we're working on that contributes positively to public safety. Like, I don't know, it's just
yeah. And if I may just follow up, the other piece on the population-based goals, I really appreciate this because I feel like maybe I was taking too small of you, but whoever, called attention to human rights and civil liberties and these other big issues, I appreciate that.
Yeah. For me it was, I got a visual really quickly about kind of like, whoa, those go this way and these go this way, and I think that there's something really rich there if we can really tap into it. Mm-hmm. I think, okay.
Thank you. In looking at the communication goals, all but the one that's not in color coded, they all seem to just be really in line with civic engagement. It feels like almost a complete overlap bucket.
Okay. Any disagreement there to that? That would like to have a look at my colors. They're all color coded. I just wanted to make sure that
the black one seems to be the outlier.
Yes,
Read the
oddly perfect. People outing themselves. I just want to say for the record, that's not me. I'm not doing that for you. Yes, great. Well, if we do that, just looking at my own little color coding system, I actually think that gets you 6 of 9 if we combine those.
Can I ask what was the reason for separating them, Lori?
I made my own. sorry, my own knowledge of how they were connected. This is why we ask you, to the smarter people in the room.
Are you asking why versus how?
Yes, why?
Oh,
So we don't continue by putting them together.
The reason they got separated in the first place was because I didn't know they were, I thought they were different things. But if you're telling me that they're the same things, then we'll just put them all together.
That's my opinion. There's 10 other opinions, I'm sure.
Yeah,
That's
so
my
then-
opinion too. Are you a question more general, Suzanne? About categories or just those two?
Those two buckets.
Oh, okay.
You know, just not
I
to
separated them
overlook
because I didn't know, I couldn't see that they were the same.
Yeah.
They look different to me. But you're, as insiders, if you see that they're really the same, there's nothing wrong with combining them. And what happens if you combine them is it moves up to a top priority because it becomes 6 of 9. You're talking about combining civic engagement and communication. So something on the bottom of page 3 and something at the midway down page 4.
I have a comment on that.
Yes.
So, for the few who don't know us, I've done a bunch of presentations with other assembly members on how to engage the assembly, essentially. And it's like this fun PowerPoint thing, takes 30 to 45 minutes. I've done a PowerPoint presentation on how to engage the assembly, and I've done it with other assembly members over the last 2 years. But it's kind of with that, say, how do you engage us, what are our practices and so on.
With each other?
No, to different groups, with Chamber of Commerce.
How do other people engage with us?
With us, yeah.
Oh, got it.
Because it's very opaque. So it's like, why 3 minutes? How do you handle 3 minutes? You know, when do we meet? Why do we meet? Do we have a committee meeting? You know, all this kind of stuff. How do you influence everything from calling us and emailing us to sue us and have a referendum and do something like the whole gamut. So but happy to do that with any group, you know. I think
Yeah.
it's valuable.
Great. Okay, so we'll combine those. Okay, great. No, that's fine. Yeah, I know. I just see how we just kind of stopped and said, we're like, okay, that's good. Well, on Monday we'll do that. We'll let you strategize.
I wanted to just share a
yes.
reflection because we're in the reflection phases of this.
That's correct.
Still, okay. And that is just that I don't know how valuable this is, but the one of my observations, which is really makes me feel good, is that I think that there are people in this room that are flipping between, you know, very sort of concrete, task-oriented things to, you know, long-term sort of goal-oriented things, and the ability to align those is really powerful because it makes, you know, Felix and I, even though he wants to talk about something really specific and minute in some ways, and I want to talk about something bigger, and we're still aligned because he's actually working on something that directly relates to what I'm really interested in doing. And so that's what I got from this, was that the ability to connect those two, when oftentimes we can feel like we're separate. Like, oh, you want to work on that little thing? We've got a big problem here, you know? We got to work on this big thing. And he's like, well, I'm working on that big thing. I'm working on it by working on this one little thing right here, right? And so that makes me feel like there's an opportunity to create better alignment that way.
I love that too, as it reflects to your group agreements around respecting around getting to the idea, you know, finding that connection around that idea, because that gives you more tools in your toolbox to do that. That's great. Other reflections just about the list overall. Mr. Dunbar, one of the things we did while you were out, just so you're up with us, is that we combined civic engagement and communication buckets together, and that increased to 6 out of 9. So bottom of page 3 and midway down page 4, communications, and that was my error that I didn't understand that those were similar ideas. Mr. Dyson.
Yeah, I appreciate Cameron's perspective. In some ways, the big picture, long-term, more principle-oriented things, if we agree on those, then when we pursue a whole lot of specific things, we can agree that they will work within these principles. And we always get forced into compromises. That doesn't mean a half loaf, cut the baby in half. It means that guys like me who are civil libertarian, I've got to be willing for the greater good to give up some civil liberties. You can't have a burn barrel in your yard. even though 90% of people can do it. You know? All those kind of things. We just said, darn it, you can't have garbage attracting bears and causing all that problem. We took away somebody's liberty, but on a basis, and I just said, you know, having the principles that we agree on will help us figure out what are the limits and what we solve. So, you know, he probably has constituents who want to load all the homeless on a C6 and drop them off in Phoenix, you know.
Without a parachute.
Pardon?
You want to drop them off without a parachute.
You have more radical.
Who would have thought?
I thought we were out on the edge.
Mine usually have the one-way ticket.
Yeah.
They really
Oh.
like that. So it's more commercial.
It's not quite so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dyson. Any other, you guys are good for some comedy, that's good. Any other feedback about the list itself?
Kind of coming.
I had an item that I didn't even know where it would fit on a list.
Yeah.
And that was sort of change the priorities of our legislative committee, because it really hasn't really been doing a whole lot. Because when I was first on the legislative committee over 5 years ago, it was about picking priorities for capital projects and trying to lobby the legislature for funding. Now we realize that's a whole waste of time because they have
There are no
no
capital
funds. And so we're shifting our priority for that committee to lobby about legislation that we would like to see them pass that would, you know, further some goals that we have here in Anchorage, and the Assembly might be working on.
Might I offer that in Monday's conversation, when we talk about how we want to be accountable to the goals, a lovely outcome is to see a shift in how you're prioritizing your legislative priorities. So that might be a nice kind of what do we do with these priorities that we have? Well, one of the things that we do with them is that we shift our legislative priority conversation or the committee's work, and that might be a lovely Monday conversation if you're also willing. I think that might be where that lives, but that's up to you. If you see a spot where you think it would live better, let me know. But for sure, it feels like an accountability space, because if these truly are your goals, then you'll want to actually help people about that.
So I think that you hit on to one of the things that I see as a lack in our whole process, and that is a really clear and defined committee methodology and what the committees are
Monday.
supposed to do, because that will actually, doesn't matter what our goals are, provide for us an effective way to, whether it's legislative priorities or any other priorities, to really depend on the committees.
That's my hope. That is part of Monday's discussion. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
So I apologize, I stepped out. What's this topic Monday?
Monday is your meeting again on Monday, and a little mini agenda right here is at the bottom of your current agenda, and we have now potentially, with Mr. Peterson's agreement, going to add the question. Right now, Monday's mini agenda is just has me writing questions because I'm not sure where we're going to end up today. But I think one of the questions is, how does it impact your legislative agenda? Mr. Chair, you're all right with that idea?
Yeah,
that
I have a lot more to say about the committees on Monday.
Okay. Okay, so committees and legislative priorities tackle on Monday. Okay. Monday's going to be fun. There's dinner involved. That'll be great. Okay. Did that answer your question? Okay. All right. So this is what we're going to do now with the bit of time we have here. So, and someone did ask me if you could do this standing. So totally your choice, whether to sit or to stand. But we're going to go through several rounds, and I'm going to be your timekeeper. This is how it will go. You're going to get into some small groups. I would suggest just a swivel and turn. If your team decides to stand up, you're more than welcome to do that. Groups of...
So the way that I was thinking of the story was these four in a group, these four in a group,
right,
and then those three in a group.
Great. We'll go with your chair's prerogative there. Okay, so 3 groups. We're going to work together. You're going to look at the bucket. So we're all going to look at the same bucket. So we're all going to look at the housing homelessness bucket. And our job in our group is to come up with a goal statement that is SMART. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound.
Can we write that back on the
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. And
Whiteboard right here too.
thank you. I can write it in both places as soon as we break into groups. Okay, so here's the thing. When we come back together, we'll have 3 potentially different goals. Then we'll worry about the wordsmithing part and seeing how we could get them. Maybe we'll end up with 3 in one bucket. Maybe we'll end up with 1. We'll just have to see how you go. So we'll do that. Then we'll come back together, and then we'll take the next one, and then So we're gonna we're gonna come in and go out, a little accordion activity here, until we have made, either until we, my hope is that we will do it for at least the top 3 goals. Potentially we would do it for the top 4 goals. And then we will see where we are at that moment in time and what we need to do next, okay? So I will write down the SMART acronym so we know what we're doing. The challenge you're going to have in front of you is not to get in the weeds. Because if you go down into the weeds on these details, you're going to get lost. And the goal is going to get really hard. Okay? And remember that on Monday, we're going to then work on where, we don't have all the information to get weedy here anyway. There are other committees, there are other commissions, there are other groups of people, there are other experts, there are other folks who we need to get weedy with, and we're going to figure that out on Monday. Like, who are the other people we need to get weedy with? Right now, we're just trying to set the goal. Now, again, remember, right? One of the ways to be specific is not just work the goal vertically, but work it horizontally. Pick a population, right? Pick the population you want to work with, or pick, right? You can work this way and this way. So there's the gift of the big and the little. Want to say anything else?
Yeah, just 2 quick things. So I just want to invite our staff, if you want to join one of these 3 groups, feel free to. I'm sure we'd be happy to get any thoughts and ideas that you have. And then second is, and this is sort of more of a, now that both Suzanne and Austin brought this up, sort of a political question. So if we only do the top 3, that's housing, homelessness, economic development, land use, quality of life. Actually, no, it would be civic engagement and communication, right?
Yeah, civic engagement and communication.
So even if we do top 4, that's quality of life, livable city. And that leaves out, so even if we do top 4, it leaves out public safety and wellness.
Okay, so we want to get to 5. I can get you to 5. You just have less time.
Okay.
But that's okay.
I don't know what makes sense to do 5, or maybe do 3 and we just tack on public safety, because I think...
Yeah, if we don't do public safety, we're missing something, aren't we?
If I might, I would suggest that the communication piece and that whole section it warrants a different approach. I think it's technical, it's visionary, it's all the problems, and so we could probably reserve that one for a whole topic of conversation.
Okay, well, I'm going to just honor the process that we have going right now with all much respect. But let's see if I can get you to that spot. And we need to move it around to get there today, then we will. And if we need to add more time on Monday to get there, then we will do that too at the very beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
But I promise you we will get through that.
Either so now or groups, we're looking at a 20,000 foot view.
20,000 foot view. And we're all going to start with homelessness. We're all going to start with homelessness, housing and homelessness. Okay.
Lori or Felix, it's almost, to me, that communication piece almost is like a circle all the way around all those other things.
Okay, this is all right. If you want to deal with it that way, that's fine. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, so just thinking about how Suzanne and I have worked on the communication piece, several members have brought up ideas, the administration has brought up ideas on how we could better communicate during our Tuesday meetings throughout the week on things that we do, and it's something that pretty much every week, and Barbara can attest to this, we work on a different communication thing every week. We have, isn't it Anna is working as our staff, part-time staff that is working and drilling down on all these different communication pieces. So I would agree that everything that we do will have a communication component to it. So I don't know in this process how we want to delve into that.
I just want to say, like, if you look at the goals under civic engagement before you bunch them back up with communication as you did, I just want to point out that those are different, right? They're about being a welcoming city. They're about voting. They're about, right? They're not about how you communicate. I mean, I heard you say you wanted them together. I'm just telling you why I put them apart. Now, again, there is a strong argument, I think, to be made about the diversity pieces under civic engagement that you could see instead as a horizontal line across your work. So if you really want to pull this out and deal with it differently, my suggestion to you is that you think about communication as a horizontal line going across, and you think about being a welcoming city as a horizontal line coming across. But you think of those two things differently because they're very different sets of goals in here, right? Is that fair? Yeah. And let me try to draw this.
I agree with that framing. The two major branches of that communication and civic engagement, if you divide them again, neither of them are in our top 4 priorities. And
right, but if you saw them as horizontal across the goals, and maybe they're more about a value proposition than they are about a goal.
I mean, so I was gone. One of those is mine, one of the civic engagement ones, and I don't see it as part of communication. So if that matters, I would have said that had I been here. All of that sort of.
I'd like to be not the chair of the committee.
What's that?
You're not the chair of the committee, you left the room.
There's a whole conversation around that, right? So perhaps the horizontal ones are, sorry to end that a little, right? Human rights, civil liberties. I'm calling a welcoming city to mean diversity, equity, and then communication. It's about how you communicate. And these are going this way, right? And then coming this way are these goals or these buckets. Right? Does that make sense? I'm sorry that it's light blue.
That makes sense to me, and I think that will make this discussion easier as we move forward. So everyone can agree to use that frame. That way we have our 4.
I just would take one narrowing of the welcoming one, and that, to me, what I understood that to be is accessibility for all of the people in our community to understand and to engage with our process. You know, the whole diversity concept and welcoming and all that, I don't understand where that plays in all of it, but I think a place where we need to do a better job is making what we do accessible to the people we do it onto or on the behalf of.
So I think that falls into the communication conversation, if you look at the communication goals. But under civic engagement, and now maybe Mr. Dunbar, since you said that you're one of these people, try not to tell anybody who anybody is here. So, but since you talked about that, I mean, I don't know which one of these is yours, but just to him, it says, like, right, promote equity and diversity in all we do. Foster a sense of indigenous space in Anchorage. Right? Those are really different than how you communicate. The act of communication. How you communicate, yeah. The act of it. Again, not every goal is going to deal with everything. Maybe you just need to decide whether it's in your small group, if it's a thing for you or not.
Well, last comment I'll make there, that the discussion of communication that we had in this room was about communication amongst ourselves. And that is different than what's listed on the paper. And so there's an internal communication proceeding that we need to understand and do the best we can do. But there's also that external one. And those are very important values, and they're different and distinct. Yeah.
I'll add myself on communication. I'm purple. I meant those to be civic engagement. That's why I made the suggestion. I meant those to be
Right.
portions of civic engagement. So that's why I suggested Mary.
Let's try this. You can hash it out in the small group. Let's just see where we come up. It might not be perfect, but let's try. Okay, let's just try. So we are all going to take on my piece of paper. We are all going to take housing and homelessness. You may see these things coming across the screen as horizontal. To add to your, I forgot to write down your acronym. Let's start with 10 minutes. I just want to see where you get. We can add more time as we go. But if you want to get to all of them, like we're going to need to do them within 10 or 15 minutes, right? Okay, so my request to you and your small team, we're going to have 3 small teams. Please find a scribe, preferably somebody that has handwriting I can read when this is over. Thank you.
I could be a doctor.
Okay, so
I see teachers told me I was going to.
So,
because they couldn't read it all day.
Write that down. Write left-handed.
Measurable.
I'll just go pull a chair over here in between.
Realistic.
Time bound.
Time bound usually means like within a year, within a month, within the fiscal year, within some boundary of time.
Well, I think the legislature's going to have this all for us. They think it's a easy deal, so.
So I see it in several domains. We have obviously individual experience in
Homelessness, to me,
which is
it's
a number
been
of
the same
different
question
questions.
for as long as we've been working
We
on
have our
where
neighbors who
we're
live
gonna put the
nearby,
money.
those issues. We have our open
What do you
spaces.
mean neighbors who live nearby?
People who live near the places
Oh, people
where
are pissed.
the encampments are. Well, no, so there are people who aren't anywhere near it. They're just rolled out. Right, so, but there are needs of people who are nearby.
Near the trails. Yeah.
Right, their needs are somewhat different.
Impact.
So our open spaces are an important aspect.
Do you need me to read you my handwriting, my messy handwriting?
No,
Okay, sure. Oh,
Then we have our government, what it does. Homeless shelters, that's the broad framework. We have to contemplate.
Chris says, stay there.
yes,
This is a goal. This is like our vision.
yeah.
One
It's like,
statement.
Like a sentence. That's like broad and, well, maybe not broad, but like not like by test for everyone.
yeah, not, yeah.
Or you can get me a notepad.
It's gonna definitely be like 30,000.
Yeah, it's kind of like what the community or the administration has, which is like homelessness should be a one-time, short, whatever event.
But I think the piece we continue to miss in our vision is the impacts we face outside of those communities. All of our vision and mission statements address
Is about that.
homeless. We're getting this
Although
projection.
their mission statement, that makes it better for everyone. If it's a short, one-time, non-chronic, not lots of people.
You have fewer homeless
Yeah.
folks who co-experience homelessness in treatment centers, minimize less impact.
And people who are experiencing it for less time probably are less severe, right? I mean, you're probably getting in bad habits or any of the crimes related or whatever. Is it for people who living here for
Bill talked about in the worksession,
Taking advantage
we're
of
not gonna have a tariff. We signal getting the homeless. We are talking, that's our number one
I
priority.
disagree. I'm saying that there's just not. I understand what you're
Maybe it is about.
With the exception of some of our. Anyway, we don't use Unity, but what should ours be?
But are we within 30,000 feet? The statement is a statement of
I think it's our goal or vision.
Okay, but it's not like, it's not, even though we want it to be achievable, like, relatively specific, it's not like building.
No, I think it's like like that sort of vision, like
That's not there either.
reduce homelessness to have happy community, you know.
Have safe workspaces.
Yeah.
We really need to have those pieces in there.
Yeah.
I think we need to drill down a bit more
What they
specific.
don't want to do is not be influenced or even encourage
Like
or
they're
support.
disenfranchised by the way.
That's why you get a
No, I agree.
Sure.
We can signal to them, we're franchising.
So what
Oh,
would
wait, is anything going to be broadcast? I guess it's all public record.
Yeah, it's all public. But that's not the point. The point is when they all go
That's
back
right.
together
It
and
doesn't-
unify the same message. Yes,
Most
we are
don't
vision.
get a specific restraint.
So you were starting to articulate some like specific things, which was good. So like safe public spaces.
I agree with that to a certain degree. My resistance to focusing on that is one way to make safe neighborhoods is to arrest all people. Not something you're suggesting, but
So we need to add the word compassionately or within the order of civil rights. I agree with that.
Yeah, we need to add that element.
At the
So the
beginning.
liberties forever can go this way.
At the beginning, that has to be the.
Right, right in my mind, it's a different. Imagine that.
But yeah, I mean, like the people in our neighborhood that want to live in God's
Right.
in a concentration camp or like
So I think that's one of the critical branches of this message is that, you know, within the constitutional bounds, and we should say aspirationally, not.
So how would we describe how we're sort of providing a service or helping?
We still don't know.
We kind of talked about safe home spaces, not sort of the other constituents. What about how we provide services or
The term that comes to my mind is robust response. Like some kind of robust action.
yeah, but that's again serving the people impacted.
I want serving all the responses, the problems, and the response to these things, but it's robust. It is evolving. Everyone can see it.
Are we about to have at the end?
Yeah.
So I would say like reduce the number. How do you say this? Reduce the number of homelessness experiences. Because I want to really say reduce people experiencing homelessness. So that is, you know, it's kind of clunky to say in a way that doesn't have a overwhelming. Yeah, reduce incidences of homelessness and the impact of those incidences on the community.
In our public spaces, in our
To me, the primary focus is and should remain reducing the actual number of experiences.
Yeah.
I agree with you that there's another important goal there, which is to reduce the impact on the rest of the to me, though, that's always slightly secondary.
And it's sort of a symptom, right? It's kind of like the real thing is dealing with I think we all want to, he's just talking about where you have.
I said you had 10 minutes. Let's see how we're doing. Let's see how we're doing.
Lori, you know how normally in groups like this, it takes like 5 minutes for someone to speak up. Now here, it's like
One thing that I think we're missing, so I'm hearing
All we can do is
prevention,
provide
I'm
leadership.
hearing safe spaces.
Try
I'm
to
not hearing
help find some funding for some of these
right, because I'm hearing how we're going to deal with it up to
to make
the
their work,
continuum of,
you know,
okay,
possible.
now we're going to address the response, right?
I just don't.
But the reduced incidences is, right, it's housing,
Yeah, I see it like
it's
it's
social
ongoing.
services.
I think we should do. It takes a community.
Yeah.
pull it out, several of them are still.
But we can't do that.
Not this,
Oh,
Not right.
not right now. No, right now. We're not doing bullets. She's
Comma and comma and comma.
Yeah, there you go.
Commas, not bullets. But,
I was thinking, I agree with this in the sense that the housing is the largest part of the city. So it would
and shelter, and behavioral health interventions, and it would be resources.
then our list is good.
Yeah, I think that's too long. It needs to be a vision. It's not like, these are all the things we're gonna do. It's, this is what our vision is. And then we, on Monday, get into what we're gonna do with it.
That's right. Yeah, but those in the way are all tools, housing, behavioral health, shelter, those are all tools. So we're actually goal is to end homelessness.
Sure, but I think there's a reason why it's a housing and homelessness, right? And I think there's a reason why the commission is a housing and homelessness commission.
Also, the administration is kind of the neighborhood. If there's no because they say all things they're doing for years is but the trajectory to successfully housing these people is years out.
Ironically, that's just messing up things. The city spends almost nothing. That's ironically the perception.
So I just want to read back for a sentence. So I actually think this is the principle of the reduced instances of homelessness. We can insert a few things in there, but I feel like that's our bigger goal, right? Is to reduce it. And it doesn't have to happen. That's a good point.
Well, and it is not every day you can be doing that, right? You can achieve that goal on a daily
I mean, I
basis.
guess people were talking about for the next year. I want to like something like make meaningful progress or something like that. Like some step forward.
I might add that by providing resources, providing community assets, allowing volunteers to come up with some methods to how that would be done in the next 3 years is my biggest beef right now with our system. I think there's all these people screaming out, let's do something, and we've not come up with something for them to do. Right? And so I would add figuring out ways, not on to say it over, but
So I could say list by and then list a few things, but I think they should still be broad.
in that legal term, use this and the other thing because it might be social work, right?
So what are those things we measure by
Well, the first one again is figure out which there are a number of ways that can happen. To me, that's one. Like Tom McGrath yesterday, here talking about so I was driving home yesterday from work. He was out rolling the right across the road where the homeless
The entire assembly has turned over, except for myself, in the last 4.5 years. And so, the group that was there when we first started having the homeless committee meetings, they're all gone but myself. And so and that's just the nature of the situation we're in, you know. These are permanent jobs that we're filling.
And that's even more
Right.
these cities.
So it's tapping into the
Democratic
will. It's a good thing.
Sometimes they're like, I want you to play it anymore. Sometimes they're all in.
Yeah,
But
channeling.
this work continues.
Giving people, it's also giving people like guidance.
So
you know, like
that's the
their
legacy what they did is they propped up for a number of years, building up this system. So that
It's only the nonprofits. It's only the nonprofits that need
in some years,
I read that. We've passed a number of ordinances.
We have.
Providing funding priorities and government to increase our funding. We've done change.
We have, but it.
We are that. I'm not, in some ways, we are and we aren't. But really,
just over the last few years, that's
government.
Yeah, but we're not the.
that's foolish now. For the community.
He's walked out of this process in so many ways because of the fear that they have. There's been a lot of laws going out raising these
There has
woods.
been a lot of
Realistic.
parties over the years.
But
They were
we can
working
figure
on
out a way
homelessness.
to tap into
You
that.
can go back in the annals and they've got
We will find some
groups that have put together plans 30 years ago. You know,
Yeah,
there's always been finding the funding to implement the plan.
Group that by saying something
The stumbling
like
block has
that's
been finding the funding to
by
implement the plan.
engaging the public
And so we tried.
you know, promoting good policy or something that's like more broad,
But over
but
time,
then.
that particular problem, but we were for sure.
This one's meaty, so I'm giving you extra time here, just so you know, but We want to be honing in.
Homelessness in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? You
Almost
can't
got it.
solve it. I don't
Very
need you to
close.
solve it. I just need you to have a goal. I really don't want you to.
Or we have some.
Do you want me to read that? Yeah. Reduce incidences
More people. Now we have another 80 organizations
Officially, there's
that are providing housing.
Yeah. It's not very.
It's not specific.
What I wrote down,
Yeah,
is reduce
It's not time, it's not time
Yeah, the time thing is hard, Lori. The time
It's
thing.
not, it is actually measurable.
Because that's something the community
Yeah.
came to us and said, this is what we think
Don't take it too
will get us there.
You were just trying to come up
So
with
we
a
kind
team
of,
smart.
you know,
No.
played around.
Like within the fourth dimension, like
Yeah.
time as a construct.
I mean,
Of course, I
Sure.
like that.
Keep us going in the right direction, so to speak.
well, you can feel accountable. Time-bound meaning you can
Yeah.
feel it.
That's a good way to put it. Because this we can say, oh, we're not actually doing that, but we are.
You know,
Yeah,
sometimes
we're
the
reducing
problem
it
with
over
goals,
time.
that's kind of keep on keeping on, right? So you're like, yeah, let's do it, yeah, you know, but there's no real accountability. So if you think of time-bound more as
That could be part of your policy
My-
funding.
Time is a flat
Sure
circle.
that the homeless coordinator.
Is it horizontal or vertical?
That's not even
That was just a show.
Yeah,
Has been the lack of churches into the solution
But
to
it's
the
long
problem.
I brought that up one time, jot it down.
No, but he's the one that we kind of make that argument really, but his theory or concept is to
Who are
break
you
up
talking about?
Kenny Peterson.
Oh, okay.
To break up the city.
He was talking about doesn't like marijuana.
Yeah, he testified this about marijuana advice. He had to move his warehouse.
Oh, yeah.
So that guy, but he's actually a lovely guy. Yeah, this white is a crazy person. It's okay, he knows. I would tell him right to say something all the time. I love it. It's crazy. But his
I know exactly what I did.
So,
Okay, I need to let out some of this. I need to feel it this
his
week.
theory
Well, yeah.
is that you break the
I
things
also-
this church has no boards, draw lines on the maps, and say, gather all the churches in the area, and ask them what they can and maybe what they can do. Ask them if they'll take one family or one person in as their person. Right? And if they did that, there's like 1,000 questions.
But I also want it to be applied. I want to protect it.
Our problem is solved, right? Except for the conversations.
Yeah, no, right.
I don't need
But if
these
you're
little
reducing
kids.
people in a safe space, that's
Right. And literally,
Or it's that type of thing.
Don't worry about it.
No, no, it's all good.
just thinking.
No, it's just, I mean, it's like 11 now. So I think that the number that do the mother shelters, I brought this up a couple times. But there are other requirements to running a certain kind of facility. But no, I agree with you. And it was interesting listening to them talk about Houston and Omaha and like the tremendous efforts of the nonprofit and religious community, which are very much linked to like solve this problem. And for whatever reason, it's increased. Like, I mean, how many homeless folks can you fit in change more? I mean,
so
like,
maybe we have faith-based solutions in there, promote faith-based solutions.
Baptist
Write it
temple.
down, write it down. Governmental arrangements.
I don't know.
Well, that's kind of what the gospel rescue.
No, but I don't say only, but and.
Well, that's not true.
And.
That's what we're doing.
But or maybe we'll phrase that differently.
Let's not highlight it. In our overall goal, let's not highlight it.
You have 3 minutes, everybody.
On Monday.
3 minutes.
We should actually be taking this.
I do like what you just said though, Dan, the creative.
the idea.
Non-traditional, you know, like, not the usual suspects. Because that's what people are looking for. They're so tired of the usual suspects.
Okay, I get
The only answer is being telling you we need more money. It's the solution.
So what about this? By engaging the public in promoting the policy and fostering non-traditional partnerships. Where you want to move that out?
Leave it out.
And we'll get into it.
Don't have staff. And so I have to agree with
No,
you
saying
that
be
you
safe.
really should focus your
That's the
goals
tent city
on-
idea.
Just like just an example.
There we go.
Those are really good.
That's what we should do.
I don't know, what do you all think about this? Instead of the phrase that we have, not homeless, just homeless. Yeah, in that way, it's less clunky.
Yeah, it's an incidence of.
Yeah.
So this
When
is
your
how
group
we-
has your goal, I'm going to have
this
you
is how
write
we
it on this
we did that.
piece of paper.
Reduce homelessness and the impact it has on our community.
3 years, yeah.
By engaging the public in promoting
immediate
Isn't there also like there's this movement in the community called like houselessness?
Yeah, and that's an advocate's perspective.
Well, your point is that the bushes are there.
I know, but I mean, I feel like it's like almost not honoring their experience, and they don't have all we all have. I mean, I would defer.
It's up to them. And
Yeah,
for
exactly.
our purposes, we're going to use a generally acceptable term.
Okay.
You know, we don't need to lose traction by looking like we're social engineering to use someone else's term. Let's let them.
Although, I mean, there's tons of examples of the last several decades of language change.
It will, but it won't be us that does it. Personally, you're right to us. I've long been advocating to get this homeless community council together. That is something else that we don't do very well. It's not directly impacted by this problem. We're those recent hard force, right?
37 council.
That's so game well that we do it because the council
How many what?
well, but there's no geography to it.
That are right.
Community council, geographic council. So what I'm proposing to
Well,
do, again, this is eventually this will be
It always is. Yes, it's true.
that we recognize. And, but I've only got 4 in the room that can. All the same not there. And you all vote to create self-sovereignty that has a shared mission. When you've done that, I will start being your
All right, everybody, time. This is the time. Come up and write your goals.
Well, I mean, I've learned that there are fractures.
But the idea is
You're going to go up there and write it down. At the end of the day, write
all of that are the ones we can grasp.
So those were just some balance papers.
We've actually made good progress on this today.
Things like Terry, so hard.
Get points for brevity.
Myself, I could do this, just do what I want.
How are these points measured?
Yeah.
And
We're going to ask you, well, that's Monday. That's Monday.
I'm working on it. I've been working on it for 2.5 years. Okay. 7 is the number I said.
Now put a number on there.
Right, how the rest of the names
Yeah. Put the number right there. Come on, everybody. If we're going to get to all of them, we got to keep moving.
That's the visual, that's the visual.
I will give you more. I give you more space.
And be careful with those markers, sometimes they.
They're double. I leave double. Come on it. I'm a rule follower. We got to write something down. Come on up, people.
Yeah, both of them were like done at once. But is there a different meaning? If you guys find
Yeah.
If you can write it right under theirs, or you can write it there, and whichever one you choose. You can write yours here.
Happy to be the
have a dollar figure, are we adding a dollar figure?
Although I hear there's a controversy.
Here's the avocado.
About the included,
Maybe we
which is
should.
fine by me.
I thought you were making a BLTA joke and it's avocado. Okay, everyone, I'm calling time out for a second. Just want to just point out to you. Hi, everybody. Just want to point out to you that took 20 minutes. If we're going to get through all of them, we might have to just work a touch faster. Just a touch, not a lot. I've got it all plotted out to get you to the finish line here, but so maybe less trying to solve the problem and more trying to get to the goal.
We spent
Just a
15
touch.
minutes on one sentence
Okay, yeah, so I mean, just a
damn good sentence.
just a thought.
We're changing the law. We should focus on sentences.
But it was a long sentence.
This is super
It's
hard.
hard, and
I
it's
mean,
like-
this is super hard.
Yeah,
I don't.
and-
Yeah, wait to get to the next one, which is a very gigantic bucket. At least there was a little bit of cohesiveness in the first
Yeah,
one.
good point.
Yeah, the next bucket is the next bucket's a doozy because it's got a lot in it. It's economic development / land use. It's a doozy.
I almost feel like that's easier.
Hey, Lori?
Yes.
Is this supposed to be one long sentence with our smart stuff? All the details
Or
of the
not.
time and everything else?
You do it the way you
Okay.
do it.
Yeah, I
and
saw
we'll
this
figure
one.
it
There's
out.
like colons and commas.
Yeah,
Hyphens.
right. You get a little extra points for brevity, but we definitely want to get your full idea out here. That's all right. You just do it in the way you need to do it, and we're going to worry about wordsmithing it later. This group, I'm not going to give you a number because this group, if you would like to start, you may begin.
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
This
gentlemen.
group, if you'd like to begin, well,
Economic development, land use.
but you may begin if you'd like.
You're beginning?
You may begin economic development /
I saw this on Twitter.
Hey guys, you want to do lens?
Oh,
Yeah, we're
okay.
supposed to move on to the Sorry, but go ahead.
Wait, so economic development and land use were like, we consider those to be the same thing? Economic development and land use, or?
They're the same department, but they're sort of
Yeah, I
they-
suppose so. I guess it's
I
our
mean, land
biggest
use
lever.
kinda-
But like
yeah.
selling an OP is not land use, but
Yeah.
report is not land use.
In some ways it is, but it's not land use like a
We're sitting here in this room 3 years from now.
How about
and we all walk
don't
outside
bankrupt the city?
What's happening in the world?
Yeah.
great goal.
Can we do that?
No, you don't have to be strength-based. That's your choice.
Yeah, says something about us. But.
No, it's because we're staring at the balance sheet.
Yeah,
That's
right.
what it is.
Sure.
It's like-
These are your
Okay,
goals. You
except
can
report.
have them be
More
deficit
housing
goals.
than
I feel
ever.
like things should
Sometimes
it
you
should
walk
be
around
like
and there's
create or foster or whatever, like thriving,
Well,
inclusive,
the stock market could crash and we've got full
diverse,
companies.
economically
So
vibrant.
you just walk,
Or something like that. You know, like
The place where the economic development land use connect is our policies that help us achieve housing growth and density. So we want all these in the
Well, and keep telling economic development. So things reducing barriers and new housing.
vision or yeah.
So the opposite of reducing barriers is streamlining. So that would be the asset based frame, but we want to streamline to the point. So it's like
Speaking another language,
streamline.
asset-based frame. What's that mean?
Well, instead of looking at it as a deficit, it is reducing red tape. Yeah. Reducing red tape is a deficit based, reduce the problem. An asset based frame is to streamline, make it more efficient.
Yeah.
And so just
Put it in positive.
Can I have another suggestion here? There are a couple, so I did economic development back in the
That's
day.
one clear
Internationally. There are a couple different ways to sort of frame economic development.
For me,
The traditional way is all about
That's all right, that's
growth
all right.
and GDP growth, right? And we could do something like that.
Yeah.
Small business.
Anchorage's
Majority
GDP
of
grows
businesses
in
that
the next
open.
year, right? I mean,
Well,
that-
majority of employees that hire.
The more recent
Small
dominant
business.
frame is the human
So for
development
me,
index, right?
if we want
Talking
to
more about
have economic
equity and
development,
more
we need
about
to
things
promote
like education
entrepreneurship.
and those other kind of
And
human
so
development kind
you
of
need
more
to start
broad goals.
teaching kids in
And
middle
to
school,
me,
high school,
so I don't
start
know,
thinking
we
about
could just say
being their
something
own
like
small business owner someday.
create an
so that
economy
we
that
can
is
create
growing
these
at
small
more than
businesses
3%
that are
or
going to
something like
jobs.
that. And that would be a smart goal.
If
Yeah.
there were
Right. But I don't know if it's necessarily achievable.
You are number two.
I don't know that it's something that we have to influence. Right? And you, in essence, what is it that we
15,
can
no,
actually do
no,
in
we
that
should
year?
over 15 months.
Well, but you could look at that and go, oh, they have some taxes. Oh, we're taking ML as a saving. You know, if you could
If they don't
think
come back in
of
like a
action
couple
items
months.
that fit under that. But I just think it leaves out the human element, which
So
is why I was saying
500.
like thriving,
500
life
new
is like economic. Walk downtown and like go to a cute store and not have to buy like loose socks.
We've got
I mean, I could just
500 new
default to
locally owned
this was like my second highest priority. And I always talk about quality of life. Is it the same?
It has
Oh, I guess it
nothing
is.
to do with
to me, they're like very much
Totally.
kind of the same thing. They're sort of into each other, but yeah, it's
Five
talking about like,
housing units in
yeah, a vibrant community, a livable, walkable city.
Because I'm on
where
board with housing
folks
and
can
things.
live
So what I'm hearing
and
now in the
raise
role of
families.
assembly though would be
That's the
to
kind of
pass
rhetoric.
policies and
Yep.
funds.
Say
Not really, again, it's the bridge between land use and economic development.
But
Right?
it's a
Because
goal.
that's
What the
environment,
goal is
land use,
that
what gets built
in
where
3
and
years-
why.
It's a goal for the
Super
assembly.
impactful on
Well, it's a goal the assembly
where people
has
want to live,
a role in.
who's moving in, who's moving out.
We have to set a goal.
If you have
We
children
a
to go to your
100%
schools.
goal. I mean, I think we can set a goal.
What
that
about,
we-
you know how we started with like a
that
verb
we have
before,
a
something like,
goal.
something like,
had
so we're on economic
250
promote
additional
and
housing
implement
units built in the last
policies,
2.5 years, just about
whatever
agreement.
that creates,
So, I mean,
because then
if we
it's
could
like
do it
about
remote
our
room,
role, like what we're doing.
We can,
Talking about that one.
yes, yeah, that's reduce is very concrete. It's like it's going up or it's going down. Promoting is kind of what she was talking about.
Number
Like,
of
you can kind of be
mobile
spinning your wheels and you're still
business.
promoting.
Yeah, it's hard to make it measurable.
new business.
Yeah.
And the number of
But it might be the
downtown-
best.
Well, but it could be implemented as well. If we're talking about policies, it's.
And these are affordable housing or the general housing?
I mean, maybe the measurable is not in the
And then
verb, but it's
midtown
like what we say.
is-
You know, like if we're not seeing these things, because that's, I guess, it's not measurable.
So 500 new locally owned businesses.
One thing that we haven't really talked about a lot here, and that's core value for me, is equity in our community. And so the complaint I hear the most when we're doing all these efforts for economic development are, all of these policies are great. But what about for us who live in the where a downtown tax abatement policy is going to any day, have nicer units for real people, and we're going to still continue to live in a neighborhood with roller sidewalks.
Yeah, but most of them are not.
So we should say like equitable, inclusive, like I think that's kind of what it is. I agree.
Put in there is that we're not just talking about.
You know, lots of cities are talking about like cautious zoning and all these things that are really like, if you're Seattle, you need to think about that, right? We're not Seattle. We're actually lucky. It's like
And
we
then
have this
somebody
opportunity
who
to
bought a
not
condo
price out.
and then all of a sudden
I'm not
had 2
saying
children
it's
realize
right
they
now,
need
but
to
it could be
expand,
always.
then they buy that.
And they can all move to town, you can't afford
Yeah, but the
it.
flip side of that, right, for Seattle is their economy is booming. Same with
Same.
Seattle. Same
But
with San
that's
Francisco.
what
And
causes,
why.
that's why you get that.
But it's kind of like a good problem to have.
Right, no, because here we are, our scale, where they are. A little policy change here will keep
Why are they leaving?
us equitable.
Yeah, so I think, I guess what I was trying to say is we're in a position where we need to think about what we do so that we don't, I mean, you're right.
I will remind all of you, right, your goal is about your locus of control as the assembly, right? Just keep remembering that
Okay,
as you
so
write these
I'll start with
goals.
promote just because, and we can sub it out.
Policies.
So policies.
Because I have a friend of mine,
Or,
another friend of
kind of
mine,
like
that's a
implement.
configure.
Promote is just like,
We
yeah.
We don't.
Or set.
We enact.
Oh, right,
Enact.
enact,
This is a verb too.
enact. Very legal, I like it.
So we need, if we're gonna have 24 housing.
Please.
Yeah.
That will create, thriving, or that create,
Ready to grow.
or that foster, or that.
Fosters a good one.
Yeah, that's the.
Yeah,
You know, we have
foster.
so there's money available to loan some money to some of these entrepreneurs that have some.
So I think it's growth, we need to do equity later, because it's one of the values.
Sustainable growth.
Let's do that.
I also
13
like,
million or something, right?
it's like one of those catchphrases, synergy, whatever, but I kind of like resiliency, particularly with Alaska, but I know it's kind of cheesy.
I'm not a huge fan of that, just because I think it's become like all
So
things to all
vague.
people.
Yeah.
And the administration was. We don't want to sound
They
like
planted
that.
their
Don't tell them.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Keep working on us.
I'll
tell Kenny.
Oh, you're fine, yeah, you got it different. Okay, enact policies that foster, like, blah, 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 Anchorage, or something, if we could do I've used the word thriving, vibrant, livable,
Yeah, that leads into the next
Yeah,
part.
I mean, we're not gonna.
That-
But
the
to me,
next one
that's
is
all about land use. Like, that really is, you know, like if it's rural or if.
a desirable. So yeah, a thriving diversifying, economically diversifying and desirable, like I say, like desirable location to live. You know what I mean? Like we want people to want to move here.
Right.
That's kind of what we're getting at. You know what I mean?
We do.
Yeah, I mean, cities are.
People do.
Yeah, I mean, cities are interesting like that.
Yeah.
You're kind of like a shark. You're swimming forward or you're dying.
So this sounds like though that we're combining this one a little bit with the following point, right?
Well, that's why we want to talk about economic diversification and getting people who want to live here. I do think they're kind of separate.
Well, and I think that the land use piece confounds
Well, it
those
depends
two
on if
because
it's a chain
land
or
use is a very technical city and fringe world, and it's like it doesn't fit in the context of economic development or any of these other things. Because really,
But it is. I think it is. You're saying it is the interface between all these.
Yeah.
right? That's I mean, it goes back and forth over those two lines.
Because you're deciding, okay, industrial goes here,
Barbara's a big
residential
fan of
goes
this.
here, and even more than that, we want to have residential that has sidewalks.
created
And mixed use. Instead, let's get away from the old models and shift to what we want, the uses, instead of you have a grid here for one use, a grid here for another use. Life doesn't happen that way.
So what I'm hearing from you is you want to build the what's around the band single family.
Well, that's certainly the positivist way to say that is to increase density, right? And I do support that in terms of our land use. But because if we don't have affordable housing in our
So we can either say, density explicitly, or we can use
So would that be just
or we could just say density.
well, that ties into affordability. That ties into opportunity.
I was thinking like pedestrian right now. Yeah, sitting on things. Or no, that's the same thing. Like but there's not.
Multimodal. Yeah, that's what they say, multimodal.
Yeah.
So what do we have?
We actually raised it.
We are at 3 minutes, everybody. 3 minutes.
So,
One amount of revenue versus another.
so like
yeah,
Artificially.
opportunity rich.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, no, you can't try opportunities to adjective.
They're not all using homes.
But I do like that. I want people to think there are
Would be
opportunities.
opportunistic.
No, you can turn it into
What kind of opportunities?
For housing, for work where your home is, walk to work. Kind of
Trying to create a climate.
and that ties again to
So it could just be like thriving
How about
economic
neighborhood based? Isn't that what you're talking about? Like,
neighborhoods have been
Then you got
politicized.
NIMBY stuff. Just maybe then like what if it's like we really want we don't really want ADUs or
So you
you know
can
like the neighborhood.
But you can now.
Time to start putting your ideas on paper, everybody.
Why don't we Anchorage at the end, you put it at the beginning, I think. So you say enact policies that
That foster a.
so foster and Anchorage that
So I think there are policies in our right. I don't think we have creative.
has opportunities, so that their jurisdiction.
I think it's fine to say it's opportunity rich. That means there's a lot of opportunity. Like if the other people count
Let's go ahead and do it. Let's be first this time.
So I think there are policy barriers to that. And I think
Well, that's not
policy
even it.
barriers.
why don't you say opportunities for usage, housing, jobs?
Yes.
Well, just we were going to end on
You ready?
so they were going to be adjectives, but we can change the
opportunity
structure.
in Anchorage. It actually can work.
Let's come to the stage,
But there is no
everybody.
like thriving or.
Yeah,
we
you're
can
good.
change
You've
it,
got the
just say
pen,
now
so-
the correct as it is.
Okay, let's use opportunity rich then.
So,
So it's called it thriving,
Economically diverse, opportunity rich, and equitable or inclusive or something like that.
and balance is fairly.
Equitable gets closer to what I'm thinking we see.
yeah, and I think, inclusive.
Small businesses, no, somebody who's been around me for 5 years.
So and then also
That's
fosters thriving, economically diverse, opportunity rich,
They
and
allow,
Anchorage.
you know, a lot of them.
More equitable.
Local businesses.
Don't want to apply it to everybody.
Do we want to add a
Some
phrase
level of equity here.
Yeah.
that respects the diversity of the neighborhoods?
How, but why can't we have somewhat of
The diversity meaning we have here, which is density, we have Bear Valley, which is not, and we want to kind of honor the qualities that all of these places have at the same time meeting these broader goals.
Maybe we can include that in the quality of life portion, because this one's getting a little.
For your business assets.
Although
Some of them have
I know,
business
it's-
assets.
it's-
I don't know if they got them.
Ignore the other groups.
This is
Their
the same
work.
thing.
This is
That's all.
us. Revenue is the sole
But yeah, I do think that if we can, and it can just be a later talking point, is that we also respect that which is just that's the challenge, right?
Sometimes businesses, sometimes the businesses personal property tax.
Are you wanting to add a word, or what are, no,
Well,
where
just
are
the
we?
phrase after that I would add that also respects the kind of history and traditions of our neighborhoods, or whatever you want to say that. You know,
That's right.
but
But
that
that's
is
equitable.
Quality of life.
Yeah, you think that's observant equitable? Because
Livable
when
city.
keep in mind also, we're talking about traditions of our neighborhood, that's also redlining.
I understand.
Okay, everybody, it's done. Done.
Meaning though it's, this is the last shot, you
No,
know,
I think we can add it as later part of the conversation.
like in a more detailed.
Yeah.
Hey, you're moving on to quality of life.
How we doing on
You're doing good.
It absolutely is. That's the argument. And so somewhere out there, there are some things to be honored about neighborhoods and culture and areas. And so.
So you think our sentence shouldn't be end opportunity? If no, end opportunity hoarding, here the term opportunity hoarding. This is like a new term for like the.
I don't know if we do or we don't, but we might have all of these.
So the outdoor adventure company, would be talking a zip line from.
Okay, when you're ready, friends, quality of life, livable city.
No? Sure. They skipped over the. I think if we do another, how overlay this or
I had a friend of mine visit me last summer, and we went around some places. He was saying that he and his wife hike trails, and they get these little
Okay,
medallions.
quality of life,
Like the
livable city.
trails that they-
Ready, go.
I never
Okay
did
guys,
that.
quality of life should roll right off our minds, since we were just basically, they're kind of similar. So,
So I said, end
So
opportunity
the
hoarding is not going to be.
So the more visible internationally or internationally.
Like you take that word.
okay.
Maybe related.
Okay, so this one we were doing more of the like walkable, vibrant, those are some more.
Accessible.
Accessible.
And I mean, you could, this is where you could say that the neighborhood feel.
Yeah.
This is also, because it's not going to be anywhere else, I mean.
What did you guys just, would you guys just say that, can you say the things again? Walkable, vibrant, what else did we
Well, and I think multimodal, I think, is another way that we
Instead of walkable.
But someone just said something.
I mean, I
else.
think walkable is important, but I think multimodal puts in like
transit.
Uber, public transit, all those things.
Well, accessible also.
Accessible, that was.
Actually, the multimodal is part of accessibility. And I don't mean accessibility.
Are we doing public safety? Is that actually, are we doing that next one?
Probably get into it, yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay, that's otherwise, public safety is very much part of quality of life, so is
Well, we should
education.
say safe, educated. I'm just adding all the words. I mean, seriously,
Multi-generational.
that impacts your quality of life.
It's like in the old days, they actually had college students who used to come up and work fine. Very, very few of them do that.
He's reminding me of
So let's focus, everybody.
delicious.
That really, that's the quality of
That's a
life.
drag queen.
I was saying like almost every adjective is a drag
We're
queen.
really getting kind of off track.
That's it. Quality of life, more drag queens. That's on the
That could
record.
just be the sentence.
Okay, it's definitely a measurable, specific.
Oh, man. Probably achievable.
Definitely.
Okay, so we have vibrant, walkable, multimodal, accessible, safe, innovative. Yeah.
Walkable city center.
I know.
Everyone, neighborhood, whatever.
Why don't we have the pedal bikes?
In play, we haven't added that aspect of play.
Recreation.
Yeah, right.
So like, how about this? How about make Anchorage the number one city country to live by
I know.
That means it's a good mission statement.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good mission
Car
statement.
for an hour or
It's just-
two.
It's become
Zip
kind of a
cars,
punchline, but I think I've always thought live, work,
We don't
and
have
play
that
is a
here,
great.
do we?
Yeah, we do.
It is, yeah.
Good.
This housing development.
Big wild life.
Bad at
It does, sort of, right?
Is that right? Cool.
Carry on, carry on. Let's see.
What if it's all grammatically correct? Doesn't let it cross. I don't think there
It's
is.
also part of this like changing perception. That might have been more on the last one.
Getting more highlights.
Anchorage has to be like a cool place.
Yeah.
Anchorage has to be a cool place where people want to live.
Maybe like creative, so you're open.
There's also quality of life.
Yeah, like people around you are creative and open-minded, you know, like.
You see the challenge, are in places we see that where real people who are mobile will come to a place that has jobs and will demand in a place where they have jobs the ability to walk to their house from their work, the ability to go play in a place that's nice, all of the things that
Well, it's kind of the reverse in some communities where young people was coming because it was so cheap, the land was so cheap. And so they go into like Cleveland and kind of get it going. The problem in Anchorage is we're stuck here the worst of both. We're really expensive and our economy isn't thriving.
We're not really expensive though compared to other places.
Well, compared to Seattle, but compared to Oklahoma City, we're really expensive.
Yeah,
Compared
but I
to
mean,
Omaha, we're really expensive.
Kentucky.
Lots of
I know
young
it's
people.
not bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are the places that are redeveloped.
I'm just saying, people who are gonna move here are probably, I don't know.
You're right, they're not a young worker, they're gonna be brought here with an opportunity that provides them with the security to be able to exist in a place that they have to leave their family.
But I mean, when you talk to when I go to these ABC meetings, what they say is we can't kick off that process of getting young professionals to work here. Yeah, or recruit people. It's not just because of the big part of it, but because of the quality of life. It's that when they were trying to recruit young people, young professionals to come help their company grow, people were like, "Wait, I get what for $250,000?"
So I think what Bill Powell says, if I'm remembering correctly, is people are looking for the destination, right? So they're looking for that place where they can go to and
Public transportation.
feel like this is their place.
The eastern part of the country. The western part of the country, it was,
That's the
used
Well, so we've kind of handled that with the economic portion. So if we wanted to go there,
we had
we'd
to
be
create
like,
all this parking.
make Anchorage a desirable destination for your first part of your life and the last.
I know.
Your final
I
destination.
thought it was make Anchorage, sorry.
We're fine. Keep Anchorage big.
Oh, yeah, Anchorage fun. Oh, yeah, they're all in it. Okay.
Make Anchorage your final destination.
Yes.
Plenty of space for
It works on both sides.
Less aspirational, more. Are we having more fun?
What it is in the world.
Okay.
Yeah, we're close, you guys. We have vibrant, walkable, multimodal, accessible, safe, educated, neighborhood, recreation, creative. This is how we do it. We come up with a bunch of words and then we make a sentence out of it. And note our
So what's our
What are we trying to do? Right?
Are we
Wouldn't that be-
growing?
Wouldn't that be something that helps
We are.
Foster is good. I know we used it in the middle. this kind of stuff.
Increase the bikeability, walkability by
Create.
Yeah.
Create is good. The problem with that is
It implies
it's going to be really just whatever. The artists and for-profit, they're the ones who, all those folks are going to want to do the civilian side.
But that's the buy section. Working with these,
But I'm telling you, it's very hard for a city to create that.
The for-profit create, I think that's where the city applies it. So I think it's maybe a little too high. Yeah, it is.
It's the bikeability, walkability.
So we're zooming in on the photo here.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like,
This is already cool.
yeah,
Or-
exactly. We're gonna make it funner.
we got to that.
Hey, what is
We're not as great as Palm Springs. We're not as great as Palm Springs, but
when I was growing up in rural Alaska, and maybe I was a city. Anchorage was cool. It was where you went to go to basketball tournaments, where you went to go shop, where you went to the hospital. So at least it's different than not
Yeah.
here.
Do we need to look at our keep Anchorage cool?
Can we increase the
Okay.
offset if you're close to public transit, or if you have bike parking?
But a lot of this stuff.
Could it just be something like, I know the land use, make our city, and then all those things? Or
No,
like,
I think that's kind of a cop out.
Right.
That way.
Okay, well, but
I'm just saying, I do kind of want to boil this down a little bit. It's just a list of words from what I think.
people don't park on the side. I mean, if they do, they gotta technically. I mean, there's nowhere to park. So they.
But I don't have a better walk.
I'm just trying to get like, how do we start? I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be all those words, but like, is it creative?
Right, they will.
Because enhance is referred to
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we enhancing?
Yeah, right.
Livability, quality of life, enhanced quality of life.
And
Yeah.
the parking garages that are never full.
We spent 15 minutes and that's enough.
People only park there because they've got to walk 2.5 blocks to where they're trying to go. They go, 2.5 blocks, we got to be good.
I almost feel like it's.
Jump.
This is gold stuff.
But the goal trying
And I think that's what we're trying to do is. Somebody asked me.
increase the
We got gay people, straight people, young people, older people, women, men. I'm not really old. I'm gonna be 40.
I'm going to be 48.
Wow. Not that it's, not that it's like, very young.
Right.
50s and 30s.
We're looking at partners here.
We actually passed that since Ethan was manager. But
Our
the
planning
bike-
and zoning is
That's
set in
too
stone.
hard to
Remember just saying, I did the old man thing. 30 years ago today, I was in a great that show.
You're not doing anything wrong. Okay.
You are at like 2 minutes, everybody. You can do it.
How about enhance desirability of Anchorage as a location to live, work, and play? I mean, it is measurable. You could say like, no, I'm just saying, enhancing desirability is like property values, survey data. People are like, I want to live in Anchorage. You know, it's somewhere I want to be.
But I think the question is what makes it. You know, like what's the quality? What is right?
Less well-oriented towards cars.
So maybe we should say transit. So increase funding for like transit oriented, but then maybe that's not
We got the parking beach in this one.
The biggest complaint I hear about Anchorage is it's ugly, it's difficult to get around. I was at a party and asked all the 8-year-olds, what's your favorite thing about the first day on Anchorage? Campaign things, whatever. They were there, everyone was. A number of them said, everything is so far apart. It's hard to get anywhere. And so what they wanted was to be able to do that, right? And the way our system is oriented, you literally have to have a car or vehicle to get you somewhere. And so what we need to do is create a community where what you need is where you are.
So it's like one of us that's safe.
Like, and it's kind of furthering the city center model in a way that provides for your needs to be met where you're at.
Okay, everybody, time to start thinking about writing something down.
Which is like you're not.
The more you have easy accessibility,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah, you have your.
and then
How about like the other thing? There's like makes Anchorage an easier place to live, regardless of
Okay.
age, economic background, or all of that. But we're talking about every person can try and
Cameron, are you going to the board?
It's desirable.
I guess, yeah,
I like the easy, I think money into easy and accessible.
Okay.
Right?
Or desire.
Make
Yeah.
it a
That's gonna
desirable place to
capture some of
live.
these things and making these things occur.
So we can't do all of one school here.
sustainable.
Over the course of the next year, make Anchorage an appreciably more desirable place to live.
That's the least sexy sentence ever.
No, I can. No. The least sexy sentence ever would be like.
Okay, everybody, start to write them down.
freedom.
Well, this is interesting because one of the top thing on the list is outdoor adventure.
Freedom.
Okay.
And the freedom starting on business.
If we say
Part of what we
that's
watch
what
over here, you get freedom to build your own house.
maybe that's what we would make, because if our goal is for every person, we can
Cameron has stepped up to the board, everybody. Try to go meet him there.
Crematory. Upwind.
Look there. Look at that.
So we gotta come up with, we do have to go to
Very
some,
stuff.
at least there are some.
Yeah, the other one is really specific too, which
We're looking at the.
is that what we're supposed to be doing?
Doing fine. Doing fine.
Yeah,
Just
we
doing,
just do
just
our
do your thing.
Okay, we'll
Do
just
your
keep
thing.
on. We'll just keep doing
Keep
our.
doing your thing.
Okay,
It's creating jobs.
So enhance or improve.
yeah.
We did, yeah, it was about basically creating.
Families work.
You're gonna have, so if we were to come up with anything, it's just like, you mentioned safe, accessible, safe, accessible.
You do. Okay. Last one.
Of Anchorage.
Anchorage.
Okay. Last
More
one.
moving the energy into essential.
For each resident.
Last one.
For residents of
irrespective
for residents of
You can do it. Health, safety, and wellness. You can do it. The sooner you get done with this one, the sooner you can move to the last one.
It's interesting.
Oh, the last one's easy. We'll feel like we don't like that. That solves all the problems. All the
Can
problems.
you do this though to improve these things for everyone? Like most people have conflicting, but maybe that's the community. Maybe it's Christian. Yeah, it's not about the community. Like promote support, motivate. You can do that, or you can get less to the next person. Okay.
We can at least try. And yeah, you're right. If you are a very privileged, wealthy person. Yeah, some of these things might not understand.
It's going to
But
be less desirable.
over the long run, you're going to learn and grow.
I read.
Having integrated communities is better than
Last one.
isolated communities. And you know, in
Oh,
50
here you
years,
go.
you're pretending like you're on our side all the time. That's all these
Okay, last
literal
one.
progressives are the real racists.
You got it. You can do it. Public safety and wellness.
Yeah. They all went their separate ways. It's okay.
How you doing?
We'll be back.
You got a statement, we're
Okay.
just trying to measure these.
This
Well,
might be one that we don't.
You don't have to worry about that. Okay. They're gonna get smushed, so if you see something in there, you know.
All right, so.
But if we say, oh, you put smiley, you could put smiley faces.
I mean, if you were in. As soon as you're done with this one. Okay, so work on the last one. Okay, work on the last one. Well, health and wellness. Or wellness and safety.
They had it was also the days
Yeah, it is a balance.
a lot of services. And it's really beautifully done with fencing, so that you have
Yeah.
We came up with a lot of ideas for the next one.
Okay, team. Here you go.
Public safety.
And then,
Lock him up.
You can do it.
so that's how they
I have any more conversations.
Bring your horizontal idea.
This is why we keep our meetings formal. Otherwise, we would just be like this all the time.
It's ruled enough.
This is a dog. I knew he would say this. He said it the other day. I know he's a big Lebowski
I am
fan.
a big
As I am. Me too.
That's just like your opinion.
No, I have. I said I'm not a big fan. I'm a fan of the
So you're doing great.
It's like an early Australian.
I'm like 20% on the game.
Mad Max Fury Road.
No, that's like
Okay.
All right.
What is next on
Public
the
safety.
That's critical for you. It's the one thing that's working.
That's part of reducing recidivism. And we could talk about that kind of stuff. Like the root cause of our addiction, first childhood.
So, should we say
Bus routes.
or is it too like?
So, I think that might be too specific, but I think, I think there's a new term, but the term right now that we're using is trauma informed, but there's a new term.
Yeah, but we don't want our government to control.
Our policy should be trauma informed because we understand
Yeah.
where these things are coming from.
We need a prosecutor.
I've been a prosecutor, yeah. I mean,
Go for it. Ask for a marker, make it happen. Actually, we're going to just do a pretty short lasting.
You're revising
for a
it?
little bit, but yeah, only on two.
Well, I think.
What are you doing? What's wrong with your policies?
Like, on this one, you can use it to like
Also, like violence. I mean, I feel like that is like, or that's just, I'm not saying it's actually a huge problem. It's the thing that I care.
When I was doing
But it's substance abuse
I got
later than we
many
do.
comments about
Yeah.
break Facebook next door.
I know, I guess I just think that's not as important.
I know, but
People think it is.
I think I just think it touches right.
It does. It does.
We don't know.
No, it's what people care about. But
Because they're much more likely to be a victim of property crime or violent crime. If they're going to be a violent crime, to more, certainly the vast majority of the investment.
Ten most dangerous cities in this country.
I think that
Per capita.
remember, I think the all the crime checks. No, we had a huge drop last year.
yeah,
Our top, we're about to break. We spiked in 2017. We dropped precipitously in 2018.
Right now we're exceeding where we were. We are. But still, we're
But like, what policy could have stopped from getting a kid and murdered for like 9 $9 million.
That's good.
I understand that, but that's the one area where I think it's really makes sense. The property crimes is just next door. You know,
Perception has got a picture around.
Well, I do think
You guys are working on it, right?
Oh, gosh,
It's
sorry.
unsafe, so they don't use
It's fun. This is Mr. Dicey's favorite one. This is public safety and wellness.
Because I think this idea actually safe and overall.
Maybe that should be our thing.
One of the things
Like, make people feel safe.
Here's a specific goal that I
That is absolutely true.
before sold.
That's because of additional communication through social media.
So here's the gang unit, drug unit, and they were fully staffed. And what happened over solar is we lost all that capacity, only kept the homicide unit 6 years. So from the specific to the police side of the equation, I would like us to, and the chief has just done this with breaking of community council lines and controls. Move through the community policing law, set a Christmas policing units, where we have targeted enforcement where we need instead of just broad.
Actually, I think preventative is a bit of a just described what I heard was we got everything that was preventative and the one thing that we can prevent and while in that buildings in the units, right, where our public safety versus by the relationship.
When I talk about all it's usually the police. Right, I was going to say, we've actually already done that. I mean, to a certain degree, this might be appropriate staffing levels, or something like that.
Crime was down, we didn't need to
I would
have any
and
more
this is just me.
police training academies. And so,
Really is
we were
against
Right, so I agree.
We don't have enough police officers, we have huge amounts of money to have 2 police academies or 3 a year.
So we're talking, the frames would say that we are really being crime focused, and I actually think that's appropriate. I think that public safety is also firefighters, it's also road construction. I mean, it's vision zero.
But we're not ready for that.
But I do think that when our constituents say public safety is work, they mean it. And so I think that's when we keep it smart and specific when we talk about crime. So we've got recidivism, we've got funding,
Re-entry,
we've got
trauma
prevention,
informed, make people feel safe,
trauma,
preventative, links to
I think we've got enough words. Now let's turn to this.
One thing the chief just turned on was this phone channel. And the reason that was important was because there's a breakdown in the feedback between what the police are doing and what the public is demanding. And that's specifically as we call and that's what is to see. You believe that we showed up.
responsiveness,
Yes.
is that what you're saying?
So, but they started to turn the wheel on that because they can now hold the police.
How about like places something like make a responsive
Remember, writing a
if
paper
we're
when I
talking
was a senior in high school
we could
50
also
years
say
ago.
a forensic sector or something that is responsive, focus on prevention, and makes people feel safe, or something like that.
Can we start
And so,
reduce the
there is going to be not actually something that's so profound, because if neighbors are watching out for neighbors,
by
Reduce crime.
and that helps,
But I also think
to
the
connect the neighbors, it can help
I
people
think
feel
I
safer
do too, but I
and more
would rather
comfortable.
say make people feel safe because I think
that's what I mean. But
you know what I mean? Like I think the perception makes
so it's like reduce the occurrence of crime and make our residents feel safer by.
And so I like that. I also think we need to acknowledge, and I think you said this for us, that we ourselves aren't going to be the ones that impact this. It's going to be us.
So this responders, but by supporting the efforts of use the program.
Or even start there.
That's just
Brown piece, whatever.
And to my surprise,
Oh, you mean, rather than have
So I think it should be something like supporting our first responders in reducing crime.
Preventing and reducing crime.
okay, so support, but it's more just our first responders, right? Because we do know that things like behavioral health, counselors, those kind of things are really important.
So to some degree, those are first responders, but
Well, and so maybe we could say, or so we could say, we support our first responders and frontline staff. Well, it's not just staff, right? Frontline providers. And frontline providers in order to reduce crime in
Is it really our priority to, I mean, it sounds like a prevention, but to, like, do we feel like crime is reasonable for city planners?
No, I think our crime is too high.
So it should be.
I do think we should. It is true that people's perception of what crime is actually way out of the way. But it is also the case that there are way too much crime in Anchorage. I mean, even like domestic violence.
Bicycle theft. I can make this one like just about bikes. I mean, absolutely.
Well, like if you could just end domestic violence, it would fundamentally translate to separation.
Talk to your certain buddies, they're not your buddies, but.
Well, no, I'm not asking for it.
If we could do something, we would.
I will say, I have been involved. You are right, although I have actually been involved, I have seen a couple of
It's a user's fee. You know, let's solve the problem by
That's interesting. There are definitely, but it is
and a lot of.
few and far between compared to
It's $300 million.
Maybe less than
You guys can work on it. If people
Yes,
check-
you're right. It's like 90%.
I don't think that's true, but you're kind of right.
So we were talking about
Not doing. We're just.
we're digressing.
No, we're glad.
But I think
I don't know.
we have some.
When you're ready.
Okay,
Okay.
so support our first responders and frontline
They
providers.
said that, but it's not in the
in order
budget.
to reduce
That I've seen,
crime.
because it really wasn't.
I'm just worried, is that too vague? Like, is it like fun? Does it, you know what I mean? Like, how do we?
I think some of it's not funding, right? Some of it's giving them the tools to do it.
Yeah, and some of it is, things that I in other life might have been concerned with. Like, for example, we made it much easier to prosecute by reducing the mens rea requirements. That was something they asked for, we did it.
So, do you want to say first responders as well? Or should we just say like our public health and safety professionals or something that like can help?
Let me throw some one What about the fact that
Our former city managers.
we want to feel safe?
Resident
Why don't we just
So,
put him in
they're
a
the ones
corner
who want
and tell
to-
him?
That's what I hear, like residents will say, oh,
Right?
We're
It's not so
talking
much.
about
Yeah, but remember, it's within our realm of control.
millions of acres.
But
Come
I
on.
think that we probably
Give us
want
some
to
help.
start with the residents feeling safe.
Why don't we end with that? Why don't we start with supporting
Maybe
first
they just fund
responders?
that.
Well, because we just moved from first responders to our nonprofit providers and.
No, I just added one thing that support our first responders and frontline. That's me, that phrase right there.
That actually, that kind of stands to.
I think we're getting too, I think we're gonna spend a lot of time trying to list all the people. Why don't we just say like public health and public safety and wellness professionals? Because it's all, it's those departments, right? I mean, it's for that sector. It's not like just the first responders. It's like,
Okay, so,
Tasha,
I mean, you say
like,
support
she
our
knows
public
how to
health,
hire a person.
you say support our public health and law enforcement.
I like that.
professionals, but I do want to
And
see
EMS.
That's why I said first responders.
But then you said behavioral health, which isn't even a community.
Yeah, no,
No,
I think we should get away from this because we're just gonna talk about,
We can certainly
like,
say that we think we've seen.
support everyone or don't say it, because otherwise we're gonna, or maybe let's go back, and then we can end on it when we run out.
So I think we can do this. We just need like the law enforcement I want to highlight. We call it first responders or law enforcement. And then there's another group of people that are everybody else.
Could we just say another professional? or something? Or is it today?
I was fine with that.
But other front line, I just don't want it to feel like those are highlighted. Like what about, you know, like Natasha Pineda?
I consider her front line. That's my thing. I consider all of those people front line.
I guess you can't all be in the front line.
It isn't a war with no front lines. It is when you're fighting.
So is a key line Anchorage community member also.
That's what I
So is
said.
the Fairview Community Council. So is and so it doesn't communicate that.
Yeah, I think it, for me, I thought you meant a certain, like people MIA, public intervention team, so that kind of thing. So
We're talking about.
Either law enforcement or first
okay, I put first responders because that is law enforcement.
So support first
Fire,
responders
and
You are at 2 minutes, everybody.
I mean, yeah, if you want to go public health professionals, that's fine. That can be covered.
that seems to cover like crime and like health.
I mean, I definitely want us to reframe the war on drugs as a public health crisis.
Yeah, me too.
To have it,
Yeah, support our first responders and public health professionals
in order to.
Or by enabling them to, or something. Because
We're already doing that by saying.
Long-term treatment.
So now we're supporting them, and so then what do they do?
in order
They
to
are trying to
reduce
reduce crime.
I'm just going to say reduce crime. I don't think I need to say current.
Reduce crime and make Anchorage residents feel safer. That's
Yep. Sounds good. Support our first responders and public health professionals in order to reduce crime and
safer. Some of us feel, I feel safe.
I do too.
You know,
I kind of do, honestly.
I've lived in local communities like North DC where I feel much
We're just
safer.
lagging, but yeah.
I get no one else to get this. Let's go first. Sure, I'll write this.
Yeah, I'll be that way.
Or APB or AFB show up.
Good job, guys.
Diffuse the situation.
So my call was very specific, but I'm sorry, I just left the message. So, they've just been 3 years asked by the governor's office to call you about a matter. Can you meet me with me for comment? So it goes into some details. They're sending everybody.
Are you sure they actually sent her?
She said, no, that's why. Then I'm like, Dean, who is this person? What is this lawsuit?
What's her name? Oh, I've heard that.
She litigates her.
The state of Washington is really bad. They get so worried after they.
MOA was last year. Civil rights violation.
At all, like this.
Is she the one who was a,
These things, from like 6 to 0.
I don't think so either. This really was on benefit.
You know, any other things out there.
And we didn't pick anything at all. There's never been so many people who
Once your group has written up its idea, if you need to take a moment of stretch,
over the last,
like when I say moment, I do like mean moment, but like 5 minutes. So as soon as you're ready to write, you may take 5 minutes. Breathe fresh air.
Are we actually there? No, people got windows in here, I guess not.
Windows.
It'd be nice.
do you have it?
Oh, yeah. It feels a little stuffy.
I have a feeling when it's Barbara like that is try to minimize how these sound similar so that we don't get this or lack of this is that really
Better than sitting on the thought.
Oh my gosh, no,
You want to write this? On my right.
Like the phrases get caught me.
On here.
When you were writing,
We used to have big,
What I see in this process.
the theory we would get other things, we never really followed through, we never well funded it, we like reimbursement rates were really low.
are you done?
Sort of, downtown. He feels fixed on it, spent a lot of time. So you're talking about okay, fair enough, that's true. I just did it right.
They have enough room to build them out.
Good.
So we might
Do they have a certificate?
encourage them to do that. I'm sure they were full immediately as soon as they got open. As soon as it got staffed up, they were full. I'm sure they've been full. It's 14 beds.
Which one's Central? Is that on East Street? Yeah.
Yeah, so E and 15.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever
There's this weird jig of a
They're
boundary
trying to
right
get away.
there in that south division, and, you know.
I like to say, I can see a nice neighborhood from my window. But I don't live in it.
And you're in that
Last
pocket.
night when we chased off somebody trying to break the
Right, where Tom Banks lives too. And, yeah, so anyhow, that's this process, this distance.
But
disenfranchisement.
but it doesn't have to do
I know,
that.
that's why I said.
It doesn't have to. And that's why you gotta,
I'm here.
right, because you gotta make sure it doesn't reflect.
Just the words, every time I started to type, it was like, Steve.
It just makes me,
Fire.
for me, part of me was just funny, guys. I thought, like, he said, I have 10 things. I could give you those 10 things right now. And I was like, oh,
But
how
I
does
was
10 things
told
go?
not to give them.
Well, because they're his things.
Right, I was told not to give them. Don't give me your list. And so.
Well, at that neat moment, I didn't want that moment. I wanted it on email. I didn't want you to give it
Yeah, no,
that second.
that's what I understood was don't send
Doesn't
me.
want to give up his intention.
I understand.
It's both. Yes.
More power to you.
No, I'm good at working with other people. It's just I was told not to. Just don't give me those 10 specific items. Let's talk
Don't
about
give
the
me your,
bread.
don't give me your kind of like then, like in that moment.
I'll email you all my list. That would be illegal.
Well, that's, oh, this is fun. Okay, do you all want to take a moment of break?
Yes.
Breathe air. Don't be gone, like literally, like, Mr. Chair, like literally like 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Do you want to at ease them or do you want to keep it?
At ease.
5 minutes, everybody. Breathe fresh air.
How have you been?
Yeah. We've definitely been at ease over here.
Well, if you don't want it, I mean, I'm happy to keep you going, but I just worried that you were all looking a little, you were kind of wilting a little bit. If you don't want, you
We're
want
wilting,
it.
I'm
Okay.
wilting.
Starting to cut into nap time.
I know, I can tell.
Forrest, I'm sending you guys my
There was
first
this kind of like
email from
3
a
o'clock
constituent being
fade.
like, why in the world would you make this bear thing apply from 12 to 6 and I have to go out at 5 a.m. and we're not even in a bear area? So you guys can help me answer that.
That's only if their pickup is at 6.
He said that it requires that he have it out by 6.
It depends where you
My
are.
deputy's 80-year-old.
It depends on what time they pick
So
you
he
up.
said he has to go between 12 and
Say that
6.
again?
So you gotta watch
My
out.
pickup is at 7
80-year-olds
a.m.
out there
Yeah.
riding
Mine is 8 to 10.
I'm one of the last three.
I tried.
It's
They
11:30 to
would try to do
noon.
it 10 p.m. instead of midnight, but people wouldn't.
I was thinking that last night when I was down.
Yeah, I'm at 7 a.m. I'm out picking
Yeah,
up
it's
garbage at
not
7 a.m.
61. Why are we doing this? Shouldn't I be higher? I don't feel like that.
I have a very nice relationship with my solid
Trash guy.
guy.
Lady.
Sometimes a gal,
Yes.
mostly a guy.
Oh, yeah. He's recording.
Sometimes it's the guy that's doing the actual getting out of
Create
the
the
truck.
first zone.
Do a wave.
Oh,
And the
I
way-
thought you just want to do a resolution on the map.
I did panic a little bit when I saw that article this morning because I've never had a garage, and I was just like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do with my trash? But then I read it closer, and I was like, oh.
Yeah,
against my.
92, we got busted for hitting a mountain.
Yeah, he wants to do it really quick, so I
was
let him
like,
know
"Oh,
next
am I gonna
week
get a
that
garage
he might be able to do it.
Yeah.
Check it out with the other.
Somebody called me.
City funded garages.
I mean, that's a thing. That was a fight once.
I can never figure out what they're doing. What's the logic here? I'm all about it. Let's do it. I want to specifically restrict John Williams to put his trash cans out.
I don't use trash cans.
My street's trash
You know,
cans were all out by 6 p.m. last night except for my own.
Donovan, what's his last name?
I know.
He's the bike guy, like big time biker.
Probably fine for your
I went to his like,
Cam,
I'm
Donovan
like,
Cam.
I barely got out in
John, do you know that guy? Donovan Cam? He's got his trash down to, in a month, one trash can this big and one recycling bucket this big.
So in Houston, they have
Every
even
month.
that if the kids weren't home.
He's part of Plastic Free.
He's
I know
amazing.
Donovan, yeah.
He's amazing. Like, I want things. I have envy, trash envy. Trash reduction envy.
So in Houston, they have under their freeway, they have homeless camps, right? And then it's like 3 miles, right? And so, and at this end are the sort of the worst, you know, open drug abuse,
No, you're done.
you know, like really sort of you can see that.
Well, you're not done.
All the way down.
But you're
this end,
done with this side of the
they have like our board of directors, the mayor, they elected, and they have all this stuff. So like the mayor of Houston met with their mayor, right? And they had elected.
Oh, yeah, I'm working on it here.
And so they kick people out. They don't allow all that stuff, right? And so it's a really interesting just sort of continuum of that. And then they have, and then they have camps that are on grass areas and they have weekly cleanups. So they clean all the camps once a week. Coalition in partnership with police, the city, and all the different service providers, and they come in and have cleanup crews. Include navigators, homeless navigators. So they go and they talk about certain, but they so it's so much so that the camps move their trash to get ready for the cleanup.
When you say clean up, they're not cleaning up the same we are. Because they're probably not cleaning up the
Right.
They're not destroying.
So what they lift up the trash and clean under it. And people move for a few hours.
So they've essentially created the thing everybody wants us to do here, or some people want us to do.
But here's what's happening is that it creates a lot of contact with camps. Consistent contact. Criminal behavior has gone down significantly because it's tough to have a criminal motorcycle. They have everybody by name, and they consistently lead people into housing because every time they go to clean up, they go, "Hey Jay, how you doing? Remember last time we talked about the shelters over here? Or you want to go now?" And so
they have a place that they can legally, essentially, because they're looking at a way to legally pitch their tents.
Yeah.
It's not
No, but they haven't identified it. These are camps that are down. They didn't tell them where to go.
No, I know, but effectively they have, it's like adverse possession. They sort of, that's what they, the fact of not
They're giving it to them? Are you sure they're not giving it to them?
No, they're not giving it to
Yeah,
them.
so
But the mayor met with them.
the fact that.
This one particular group.
So where
But
was
and then they started doing that. The news media was there all the time. They have clear bags for stuff. They have black bags for the trash. So if for some reason,
where do they go to the bathroom?
so they have carts that are near their base set
What about it?
Most of them
I was
different.
Well, I was thinking about actually for
You ready to go, Lori?
Yeah.
and it's a city of like 21,000 people, but it's a big tourist district. It's beautiful.
Hello, friends.
And
Yeah, I will talk about that at the end of this. Yeah, because I've gotten a lot of questions. Yeah.
I'll just skip out. There were no folks living in the park.
Okay.
Hello, friends.
Got it.
We're so close.
Use the gavel.
There's some power there. I don't wield.
And yet people are still talking.
Yeah, right? All right. Go ahead.
Rivera. That was some serious heavy lifting, everybody. Good job. I had a brief moment to just check in about what we want to do about communication civic engagement, and we are going to just press the pause button on that for a moment and talk about what we have not forgotten, but we are going to keep moving and come back to it, so hang on for that thought. What we need to do, if we can, and we'll see, this could turn into some homework, but let's see how we go, is take a look at these 3 different goal sentences or statements in each of the categories and see what comes of it. I have already done some pre-thinking for you just to see if we can keep it moving along. Okay, so I'm going to have you just turn your attention over here, if you might. And we'll start with economic development. No, I'm sorry, we'll start with homelessness, because that's where we started. And let me just, for those of you far away, let me offer you, the 3 different, well, now there are 4 different ideas. One of our groups added a friendly idea along the way.
Friendly amendment.
Friendly, not quite an amendment, actually, a real kind of distinct thing here, right? So, reduce homelessness and the impact it has on our community and public spaces by engaging the community and promoting good policy. I'll come back to the addition here. Improve outcomes for individuals experiencing homelessness, mental health, and substance abuse issues by passing coordinated policies and funding that supports a coalition that addresses barriers and improves the continuum of care within the next 2 years at $100 million. And 3, identify the impediments to effectively addressing homelessness by getting more people involved through the Committee on Homelessness and the municipality's resources, using people and existing experts within 6 months and beyond. And then the addition was, do what we have to do to maximize federal funding. So think is a little bit about the how we get to our $100 million right here. So, when I look at this list, I see a couple things. One of the things that I see is that there's lots of synergy. They're just at different, these goals are at different elevations. One goal is kind of at 50,000 feet and one's at 20,000 feet and one might be 5,000 feet, right? So some of them become a little bit more the how are we going to get it done, right? So there's this kind of aspirational, really high value, high view, and then there's more of the tactical, what's more brass tacks. There also is some overlap, right? So that's just my observation. Take other observations and then let's see what we want to do with this. Thoughts about these 4 ideas. Do you see synergy? Do you see dissonance? Do you see elevation? What do you see?
So I see long-term and short-term.
Yeah.
So I think that there most people in this room are getting a lot of questions and pressure to find short-term solutions for the immediate things that people are dealing with. And then there's the long-term, right? And I think from our discussion, and I would just say personally, I'd like to see that the energy and the work around homelessness move out of being centered, but it feels in some ways being centered in the city and centered in the community, and that the city's role in this, from the assembly or the administration, becomes a partner at that table, and that move is going to require some intentional work.
And maybe Cameron to say anything more specific about that. Maybe I just use your first name.
Cammy.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Prefers Cam.
I prefer Cam. Cameroonski.
Other observations or ask for more clarification? Sorry, we'll go here.
Go ahead.
And then we'll go here. We'll go here
No, I was
first.
just going to say, actually, I didn't really see any of these as being necessarily short-term. And maybe it's because I have like 9 months left on this term, that 6 months doesn't seem short-term on a certain level. Even though I get, we take the long view. I mean, and it also like in the one we put where it's ongoing. So all of these seem like they take a while and they're kind of from a pretty high level.
Right. I was going to say at what Cameron said, I see that thought, in our goal we set a coalition, and then I see that kind of also using people and existing experts. Right. I see some overlap there and engaging our community also there. So I think all three of those kind of have that similarity. They all say reduce homelessness, of course, and then identify the impediments, but it all seems to use a similar mechanism.
Yeah, I think the mechanism, right, there's mechanisms around not just solving it yourself, right, using the community or existing structures. Your group got more focused on the, let's talk about policies and funding as kind of the two levers that you can really move in this conversation, and maybe that's what you were talking about, which is like finding your niche in this work, right? Your niche might be those based on this goal, might be based on this statement, right? Your niche in this work is these two spaces. Is that more what you were saying?
Me?
Both of you.
Yeah. Yes, I think that establishing the role of the assembly and the city, because mayors will change, assembly members will change, figuring out what our role is. I would also just say that I think that and I've said this to others, that if we don't do this coalition work the right way, we're just going to continue to spin. Like that's a big part of the problem is that there's no coordinated work, and so we're literally stumbling over each other as providers and as partners in this, and so that it feels long term to say work as a coalition, but there's tons of short term work going on. It's just not coordinated.
Not coordinated as well as it could be.
Thank you.
And you mean using existing coalitions, existing structures.
And I would just say, I'm being really blunt. There's a tremendous progress, a lot of it made. There's lots of things that have happened. They're really good. There's a lot of wonderful people who are involved in this. There's a lot of really good things happening. So this is not negative about what's happening. It's about where we go from there.
I was just going to say I didn't take it negative, and I feel like it's a really good comment. And we talked in our group as well about engaging churches or engaging this is a community thing. It's not just the community. So I think your point is well taken.
AFAC.
There's tons of groups, right? You have a whole Anchorage coalition. Yes.
I would just add that one thing, I harp on this quite a bit, is that all of our coalition building to date has been focused internally on nonprofits doing work, people who experience homelessness, homeless service providers, the community police, fire department. But we fail consistently at finding ways to bring in the impacted people who live outside of those arenas, the people who live nearby the creeks, the people who are the public, the broader public. We need to find a way to pull them into that, give them opportunities to participate that aren't just in the sense of fund our coalition to do what we're doing, but meaningful to them. We wordsmith that with impact on our community and public spaces, and engage the community and promote those good policies. So we just need to make sure we have those people represented who have consistently been left off the table.
Lori, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So for Cameron and others, they're talking about these other communities that have these very robust coalitions. I know John talked about one happening in Omaha too. I'm curious how we actually do that. What I mean is, we have a homeless coordinator. We've been doing the plan. We have a coalition, right? We in some sense we've done that. How do we say, okay, now y'all need to raise a bunch of money or whatever it is and do these things? Because we get emails from our constituents being like, fix this, or get this out of my park, or pass this law, or what have you. How do we say, you out in the nonprofit church community, community, we need you to do massively more. How do we do that?
And before you actually try to solve that problem right here, what I really want to say is that what you wrote down as your goal? Right? Because right here, right now, in this conversation, right, it's not about how we solve that problem. It's a fabulous question. I hope you spend a ton of time on it. But right here, right now, this is about, do you have the right, does that, what you just said, is that captured as a goal? To really know what your niche is in this work, so that you feel like with some amount of confidence that when your constituent says, what is the assembly doing about this problem, you can say, this is our niche in this work.
Yeah, and I want to ask the question. I really want to, but I won't ask the question.
All right.
But I would just say a good example. So when we were in Houston, that letter from the legislature came out, right? And so I was sitting there with all these people that are involved in homelessness in Houston and this thing. In Anchorage, they were all there. And so they told us how they would have responded to that letter, right? That the coalition with CEOs of Fortune 500 companies and political people and providers would have come together as a coalition and said, thank you so much for this letter. Here's what we as a coalition are doing, right? And so it wouldn't have come from the city, even though it was sent to the city. It was about the work that they were doing as an entire coalition. And so it would give the administration tremendous cover. It would give, so that's how they said they would have never allowed one of the partners to respond to that letter. It would have come from the whole coalition. So they have an entirely different way of communicating that is the administration, the city, and the assembly, the city council are one member of that group. So, and the money flows through that group as well. So that rather than everybody spending their own money, they try to funnel money through the group so it goes towards the priorities of the
just a couple things. I think what Chris could be in a more common vernacular to say, let people volunteer. Because they want to volunteer to do everything, clean up the camp.
That's certainly part
We
of
don't let them volunteer by policy, but that would, when we say engage the community, let them volunteer. People want to help.
So this is how we're gonna do it. We're not yet right now.
It's definitely part of
What do we mean by engage, right? Yeah.
It's more than that, though.
Also, the person's
It's more
point,
than
what are experts? Who are experts?
Yeah.
Lori, can I ask a
Again,
process?
I don't want to solve this problem right
Yeah,
now.
can I
I
ask
want to
a
make sure
process
we're writing the
question?
right goal
Yeah,
down.
what are we doing right now?
Yeah, what we're doing right now is not trying to solve this problem right now. Please, please, please don't try to solve this problem. What I really just want to do right now is just look at these goals, make sure they actually reflect what you meant, and we're going to bring them back on Monday and try to figure out, right, whether we need to wordsmith them a little bit more to, if there's overlap, let's get rid of the overlap. If they're standalone ideas, let's keep them standalone ideas. We're just looking at them right now. We're not trying to solve them. We're not trying to, get into fixing it, right? I just want to make sure that your ideas are on this piece of paper in a way where when we get to the place where we have to hold you accountable to them, you say like, yeah, the assembly, we know that this priority, this is how we're going to talk about it, right? And right now, you're talking about it in 4 ways, and all I was doing was trying to get to this, but we're going to move on because you guys really just want to solve the problem, and I appreciate that. As an Anchorage person, I appreciate you want to solve it, but that's not what we're doing here right now.
We're going to try to reconcile or combine the goals.
I'm going to give you some homework around that because we do not have time to do that in this moment. So yes, but no. Yes, but no. Okay, I'm going to move on. Economic development. Again, super concrete and super more, different elevation. 500 new locally owned businesses opened, 2,400 new housing units by 2022. I'm going to get more brass tacks than that. Enact policies that foster a thriving, economically diverse opportunity, rich, thank you, more equitable Anchorage. Create an economic culture that identifies barriers to economic well-being and values small business as well as large business, recognizing both as critical as measured by new businesses and business expansion to be led by CEDC committee with a draft plan in
That would be incredible. 6 months.
6 months, you're going to create jobs.
Okay. Reflections on these. Don't solve it, just reflections on these goals. Do they seem in sync? Just variations on a theme? Do they feel at odds?
Hold on. Fred? Is Fred leaving?
Yeah.
I wanted to say something to everyone. Could you grab him really quick? I just wanted to, and sorry, this is going to be a diversion from what we're doing right now, but I just want to address
I think you said you already told him what you were going to do.
Well, I just want to make sure that,
Okay.
that everyone has the same message. So this is a diversion from what we're talking about right now, but I just wanted to address the emails that we have received around meetings with the legislature tomorrow. So I just want to apologize profusely for the communication and the fumbles on communication.
You ought to apologize for the legislature.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's what I'm having to do, is apologize for the legislature. So tomorrow there will be a meeting. Rest assured that there will be 3 assembly members attending that meeting. We will report back to everyone on how that meeting went on the Rules Committee at the end of the month. And just rest assured that all of your opinions and all your voices will be spoken for at that meeting.
So is that you and these two as the homelessness chairs, or?
No, it is going to be myself, Mr. Constant, and Miss Altown.
Yeah, so
The rest of us get free.
you're going to call the cops if I crash the meeting?
So
It would be violating that.
Yeah, it'll be violating the Open Meetings Act, which is why, again, I'm apologizing for how this entire thing went down. It shouldn't have gone down this way. But if we get more than 3 people at the meeting, we're going to have to figure out what to do. Yeah. So.
You could end the meeting by showing up to it.
Sorry?
You could end the meeting by showing up to it.
So, and as a second to this, I am fully planning on having a joint meeting of the caucus and the legislature once the legislature's done with all their funky business.
Next year.
Yeah, sometime maybe. But
2050?
yeah, so I do plan on having that so that we can all be there and face the legislature and let them know what we think.
Can I, just quickly, I'd like to think about what Cameron raised before setting up a meeting with us in the legislature and think about what's the coalition doing, what's Rasmussen's role, like what is everyone else doing and why are we responding? Because I think that is really smart and it needs to be collaborative and I want to get away from this. I also think having a meeting in the public with the legislature versus the assembly is bad. And it just makes it look like we're all arguing and we need to be on the same team. So, anyway.
Yeah, so definitely I don't think the intent is to have an argument. I think the intent is to move things forward. And I'm willing to have the conversations to figure out how we can facilitate this in a way that it moves things forward. But I do think that there's an opportunity here and we need to take advantage of the opportunity. And I wish I could say more right now, but I can't. All right, so with that.
The answer to that is yes, there will be conversation about how it's structured and framed. If and when it comes up.
Yeah, I mean,
next time,
there
will.
should be.
There will,
Yeah.
for sure.
All right, and sorry for that aside. I've gotten a lot of questions from the members on it, and I just wanted to address the body as a whole on it. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's my calendar.
Okay.
Confused.
We'd have to notice it.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Sir?
This is that's not a policy. It's just a go on.
I don't have a gavel. Are we ready? Okay.
I mean, I understand we can't be at the meeting.
I'm just reading to you at the moment, right? Economic development, you got 3 goals. 500 new locally owned businesses, enact policies that foster a thriving blah, 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 create an economic, I read those already. Yes? So the question here for you is feeling any dissonance in these? Or does it feel like there's synergy in them? That's my only question at this point. Is there dissonance or do you feel the synergy in them?
I think the only dissonance I feel is that within our power. You know,
Yes,
that's
what you're in your power.
That's the piece that is dissonant to me. There are a number of elements there that are great aspirations, but they're not within our power. And so, to me, that would be the only way I would shade any of it would be let us lift up the things that are within our power and let us set aside the things or kind of put on the second tier the things that aren't.
Well, I would just add to that and push back on that a bit, in that very few goals that I know of do not include other factors beyond what I can control, right? And so, and part of our role is not only doing what we can control with ourselves, but have influence over other kinds of things. So I think that the challenge of setting a goal within the simple confines of what we specifically can act on may be limiting the goal setting, I guess is what I would say. Is that if we want to increase X, we're going to not only have to do some things ourselves, we're going to have to get other people to do some things as well.
Yeah, you may just have to identify who the partners are to make that happen when you get to the measurable piece, or when you get to the accountability piece of it. Quality of life, livable city. 100% increase in funding for bus routes and establish alternate transportation options through a shared economy model like zip bikes, scooters, etc. Improves the vibrancy and desirability of Anchorage for residents of all backgrounds and life experiences. Ensure that all 3 cities within the municipality are safe and accessible, and preserve individual freedom as a principle that guides every piece of legislation.
Somebody working with me.
Smiley face.
There's a smiley face.
Was that Suzanne?
Sorry, forgot to say that.
Gotta say the smile again.
My perspective on this one is, of all the things, this feels like the most diverse set of ideas, but maybe it's just because they're all pretty big. They're hard to get your arms around. There's a lot in between all those lines, I'd say. These other ones are a little bit more knowable.
In our process, if you could see the notes, I don't know where all the notes are, but there were probably a dozen of words under each of the categories that would describe the areas we were aiming. And we didn't just want to create a bullet list of terms, so we kind of stripped a lot of that out. But I think there's some value in understanding the things that we talked about. And some of it was accessibility and sidewalks, and I mean, if you don't mind, Susan, Austin, you have the notes there?
You can read it, but I don't know, is that beneficial for everyone? I mean, we can talk about that on Monday, or I can list
Just
the
to maybe
things
keep
now.
the notes.
Yeah, I'll keep them.
Okay,
Yeah,
that'll
keep
be
the
helpful.
notes. Accessibility and sidewalks for the
There's up time.
just so I hear them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to read them. I just don't want to derail the.
Okay.
There's definitely the livability relates to the physical environment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the ability to, the way it looks, the way you are able to access things, that sort of, I think there's, looks like there's a real sense of that's a concern. Like our city is not very accessible, not very,
Yeah, the built environment is not great. Yeah. Right. We'll come back to that.
Lori?
Yes.
No, go ahead. Okay, thanks. I just wanted to comment that this was kind of a tough thing to really drill down into for Eagle River, because we think of Anchorage as just a separate city than we are, and of course Suzanne could relate to that in terms of Girdwood too. I mean, we feel in Eagle River we feel like this is our city, and we go to Anchorage sometimes because we want to access this or whatever. It's not about living in Anchorage. It's about being safe when you are in Anchorage and having good accessibility transportation wise and all that. So that's kind of and we felt like Girdwood could probably say the same thing. So that's kind of where we were trying to answer the question in terms of, this is not a livable city for us, but it certainly needs to be at least inviting and safe. And so our focus was more on those ideas of making it safe and accessible, and which is in our verbiage there.
Right. So again, more about the kind of the built environment, but also that sense of safety, right? Yeah. I'm making myself some notes just.
Should we be framing this then as maybe we framed it too narrowly when we talk about city versus municipality. Maybe we need to replace that word.
And just so you know that typically when I talk about going downtown, I talk about downtown Eagle River, or if I'm going to Anchorage, I say I'm going to Anchorage because it's a different location. And when I'm talking about all of municipality, I say municipality. So we really are 3 different cities, and all of them. I mean, like in Chugach Eagle River, we do have a motto there to make that Eagle River is the most livable city in Alaska.
But
so anyway,
wouldn't it actually be significantly more than 3 cities too, right? Because Cluton has its own town.
it is. It's yeah, and you can say the same thing about Peters Creek and Chugach as
right,
well.
and Bird and Indian. I mean, if we're going to go that route, then we have a bunch of communities.
But Lori, the part I didn't get on the table was that, and I couldn't find a way to say it that didn't promote the concept of NIMBYism, but was that respects the differences of our communities.
Right. And I think that was what was trying to be done here, preserve the individual, right? We get into freedoms, but I think it's also about like the individuality of the community.
The characters and quality of life.
Characters, qualities, yeah.
So, and it's just, definitions. I guess sometimes we have to be a little more clear about what we're actually talking about, whether we're talking about the city of Anchorage or the municipality. And that one to me just spoke to the city of Anchorage. So
Yeah.
it was a little, so we were coming from a different perspective.
And again, like that was an open, that was just a bucket piece, right? Livable city is kind of a colloquial term. Certainly when I gave it as that as the header, I didn't actually mean any particular place. It was just a...
It's like the captions are not for meaning, just
Yeah, like I wasn't
purposes or whatever
thinking
that
about
caveat is.
Like, livable city, for me, that's like synonymous with like walkable, right? Like wherever I am. Oh, that's a livable city. Oh, I can walk there. Right. Of course, I live in the city. I don't really walk there.
Okay, I was like, that's really, I never thought of that at all.
Yeah.
Because I live in a place that has very few sidewalks.
Yeah, right. Well, me too, most of my life here.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just giving it as an example. Just that it was when I gave it as a header, it was a more in the colloquial, not in the specific.
Like in my district, there are 5 to 7 neighborhoods, maybe more, that all want to have their own identity, right? And it's divisive and unifying at the same time. It's a very strange phenomenon.
Well, lots of cities are like that,
We
right?
should honor that.
Yeah, I mean, lots of cities all over the country have very distinct neighborhoods. I mean, it's got its pluses and its minuses for sure. Public safety, wellness, support our first responders and public health professionals in order to reduce crime and make residents feel safer. So injury safety showed up here too, right? Not only in the livable part, but in the public safety part. Recognize and address gaps in levels of non-sworn staff. I hope you all know what that means, including dispatch personnel and the need for diversion for substance abuse and mental health treatment. Complete the circle of care with the addition of a crisis stabilization center, increasing the number of long-term treatment beds.
I'll get to my Anchorage finalist.
Thoughts about this list?
This one, I think, is the closest of the ones we looked at in terms of, I would argue that ours is probably the loftiest, and the other ones are a little bit more specific, but they're all pushing very much in the same direction.
Isn't that, I think that's...
I mean, it's probably the wellness piece too, but treatment obviously goes with prevention.
Yeah.
We talked about trying to see if we can, the Mental Health Trust Authority to fund our behavioral health individual. We've been talking about adding to the health department.
Right. Lori, just separate from the specific topic, I think that, and I know that we have this next meeting and it's 2 or 3 hours in the evening, but we can almost use each of these broad ones, if we settle in on what these broad categories are, then a separate meeting individually with department heads who are in charge of these things, and maybe some specific individuals, where we actually talk through the specific title head and flesh it out in more thorough and thoughtful approach.
So, nice tee up to Monday, which is that the Monday conversation is actually to identify. So if you look at the list here, right? So if we take this, that we just take what you just said, right? We took a bucket, this bucket. We have these 3 ideas here. The next set of question is, who needs to be in the room to have that kind of deep dive conversation? Where is the right spot to do the work, your work? How do we hold ourselves accountable as a body to these notions? An unwordsmith, of course. What's the collective assembly's role versus maybe a subcommittee's role? And how will the process be tied to the budget? We also then asked ourselves additionally the role of how it connects to legislative priorities. So we'll add that question. But to your point, that's exactly what Monday is all about, is actually identifying and answering in each of these buckets the answers to those questions. And then it's doing the work, right? So to your point exactly.
Because we need a day on each of these.
Sure, for sure. You need more than a day, right? So all we're going to do on Monday is answer these questions per each bucket. That's what Monday is. Does that make sense? Okay. So that is all true, and still we didn't get to talk about the communication thing. So your chair, in the last 3 minutes of our time, has a homework assignment for you.
Yes, so we talked about, sort of wrestled with this concept of civic engagement, communication, how we handle these. Are these worthy of a bucket of their own, or are they sort of an overlay amongst all these different concepts and ideas? So between now and Monday, I haven't thought yet exactly of how we want to address this on Monday, but I think it's important for us to address this on Monday because without having a clear concept of how we communicate these things to the public, I think a big part of the reason here is so that we are transparent to the public. Here's our vision and goal, and here's what we're going to be doing. We got to be able to communicate that to them too. So I'm going to be working with the clerk and with Lori on figuring out how we can, these pieces, incorporate them into the work that we're doing and have a discussion on Monday. So probably expect something from Barbara on this probably tomorrow with some small bit of homework that I'll ask you to bring your thinking caps on Monday for. I don't know what that is exactly yet, but I'm going to be working with Barbara and Lori on it. Lastly, before we adjourn, I wanted to step back to that other subject we were talking about with the legislature. And so if anyone has any thoughts or ideas that you think should be communicated to the legislature, I think the appropriate avenue for us to get those is to Barbara, and then Barbara can get them to the 3 of us. And that would be the appropriate avenue so that we don't violate any Open Meetings Act rules. And that way we can make sure, because I'm sure a lot of us have a lot of things to say on this subject to the legislature.
What's the subject?
So
what's the purpose of the meeting?
Yeah, I think it was outlined in the email from Ona in terms of what the meeting is going to be, which is it's going to be educational for the legislature on
presentation about what we're doing.
Yeah, part of it what we're doing, and then part of it where we can work together, at least from the administration's perspective, and I want to inject the assembly's perspective on that as well.
How about opportunities for them to fund things?
Yes. Right.
We go legislature. Here's what you could fund.
Well, and the whole in our system. And this is the administration's
Just mention the legal limitations we have too that they may not be aware
The
of.
attorneys will be there. This is the administration's meeting. We were invited, and that's why it got kind of weird like this. It wasn't our meeting.
Well, we were invited through Representative Clayton,
Right.
but he shouldn't have sent that email to him. And I will let him know he should have.
Or he can, but on our end, we just can't respond.
Right.
Citizens.
I want to thank you all for taking the time to do this heavy lift. And I look forward to seeing you on Monday. We will dive a level deeper into the conversation.
Thank
and
you.
you and I will talk.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lori.
Gavel, close it out. And official.
Yeah. So.